Tyson Fury came up with what I think might be the insult of 2022 in a video that he posted to Dylan White, Anthony Joshua, and Alexander Usyk, who are the other three heavyweights. We're having a dance-off between them to figure out who's going to not fight. Finally, boxing has a great heavyweight quad with four guys that are all in line to be the best. And we can't come up with fights, guys. Like, it's taken a lot to get me on the side of Tyson Fury, but I'm there. I'll tell you what I'm talking about coming up in a little while. NFL talk just around the corner. But before we do any of that, I should say hello. Hello, America. Hello, upstate South Carolina. Hello, world.
I was going to ask, who are you? Because you didn't self-identify, so you've broken the rule. You're going to get a note.
The rule is you have 8 seconds to jump right into it. That's what I've been told is the rule.
Yeah, but you also, I've seen those rules. You also have to self-identify because there are new listeners all the time, and they don't know who you are.
Well, let me introduce myself, South Carolina. I am Rob Brown, host of The Rob Brown Show, right here on ESPN Upstate. Let me introduce the other voice you hear as well. It is that of the great one, the alpha and the omega of ESPN Upstate, Lonzo, at the board today. We're halfway through the week, fella.
It seems like a really long week to me. We're good. Looking forward to my first full Rob Brown experience in a while.
That's right. You've been out for Twitter trending topics for the last couple of weeks.
I'm sure Diesel has done a wonderful job.
Spectacular job.
Yeah, probably better than me, but that's too bad. He's not going to get to do it today.
He's done a spectacular job. By the way, this is fun, Lonzo. 2 years ago today, I was landing in Greenville, South Carolina. Actually, right now, I was sitting in an airport in Pensacola, Florida, on my way to Greenville, South Carolina, to audition for a job hosting a radio show 2 years ago today. Tomorrow will be 2 years since my first audition episode of The Rob Brown Show.
I remember your audition. It's one of the few times in my entire career I was late getting into the studio. That's why I remember it, because it never happens.
2 years ago tomorrow, the first episode of the Rob Brown Show was an audition that I did here. So we are rapidly approaching 2 years here in the Upstate. And what do we have to show for it, Lonzo?
We have a wonderful. Well, you have a wonderful trophy.
Your name's on it.
Yeah, I know my name's on it. I've got some paper. It's good though. It's good.
I only kept that trophy because you got like 15 of them.
Yeah, well,
you're running out of room in the trophy case.
I have the memory of the jacket you were wearing and walking up on that stage.
I should see the one I got planned for this year when we go back and win it again.
Unless there's a theme that we actually pay attention to this time.
Fair enough. Ladies and gentlemen, great to be back with you. Rob Brown Show's on the radio. It's ESPN Upstate. I'm Rob. He's Lonzo. We are here for the next 2 hours and 53 minutes and 40 seconds of sports talk excellence. And we appreciate you hanging out with us today. We have got today's interesting. Today's kind of the day. I mean, obviously, we've got conference championship weekend coming up this weekend with tickets to the Super Bowl set to be punched. But I don't know if you've seen this, though. We're kind of at the point in the year, and it happens every year, but we're kind of at the point in the year where our overall focus kind of starts to shift away from being overwhelmingly football and starts to kind of pick up other sports. And it has been a good week of sports so far, like a really good week of sports,
especially a good week of football. And this year we are lucky because every 2 years we get the luck of the Olympics happening right as football ends. We go right into watching the sport that we're experts at, and that would be curling.
Curling, of course. We are nothing if not maestros of the sheet, without a doubt. We are absolute wizards when it comes to curling. February 3rd, start of the Winter Olympics, and I am curious to see how many of you guys are going to have your Olympic viewing dictated by the unfortunate off the ice field slopes, ramps, politics going on surrounding the controversies coming out of Beijing, including one Chinese tennis pro who accused a Chinese government official of sexual harassment a number of weeks ago. Actually, I believe sexual assault, and has been legitimately missing since then. Her social media has gone dark. She has made no appearances anywhere. There was like 2 recorded videos from her where she's like, no, I'm fine. It's cool. I'm just taking some time off. But then is otherwise gone completely dark, which doesn't make sense when we have the Aussie Open and other events taking place. And then, of course, obviously, there's the constant near Cold War levels of conflict between China and the United States. And obviously, with all that's going on as far as the Uyghurs and all of the other human rights question marks surrounding what goes on in China and Beijing, I'm wondering how many people are going to like legitimately tune out of the Olympics based on what's happening off the ice. Like I'm having a hard time doing it, Lonzo, because I very much want to support the American athletes that are going there to live their dream and accomplish glory and do so while wearing the red, white, and blue. But on the other hand, I am in the camp that firmly believes that the Olympics have no business going to China, no business going to Russia, or any other countries that have a history of human rights issues. And frankly, genocide is the suspect here. I'm having genuinely like an ethical dilemma here of I want to support those athletes representing the U.S. and living their dreams at the Olympics, but I don't think China should have any business hosting an event that is all about humanity through sports.
And I agree with you on that. And you can't get away from the problems that people are having with these Olympics being in China, and it's already a topic of discussion down the hall, which it should be, because you mentioned the atrocities, and then there are people, I will not watch. I get that stance, but at the same time, there are kids out there whose their entire life, all they've dreamt about is being an Olympian.
Yeah, and for a lot of them, they only get one shot.
And it's not their fault that it's in China. And did it make them work any less hard? No, they worked their butts off to get where they are. They and their families have made sacrifices to get them to where they are to represent their country. If anything, you should be rooting that we as Americans go over there and whoop China booty in the Olympics.
God, I hope we win. Just bring home all the medals, man. All the gold. Shaun White, flying tomato, in his probably send-off Olympics.
He's getting pretty old, though. I mean, that concerns me. His age really comes into play. He is still pretty good, though.
Shaun White's younger than me, Lonzo.
We're talking about
like a solid couple of years.
We're talking about snowboarding, though. We're talking about snowboarding.
Saying my life's not that extreme?
Could you jump on a snowboard right now?
Yes, I could actually. I can snowboard. Yes, I could.
I always wanted to, and someone just died last week. People still die in skiing accidents. So if it's like straight uphill down, I'll do that.
Texter just said, Rob, as the only other Saints fan in the area, I need you to talk me off the ledge. Tell me we won't revert to pre-Peyton times, lowercase hoot at frowny face emoji.
Did you keep your bag from years past? Yeah, because it is a possibility.
You're gonna think it's a joke, but yes, I still have a bag from many moons ago that it's one of those things. I've kept it with me.
On the inside of there.
Well, I haven't worn it in 16 years.
Okay. So, yeah.
I haven't needed it. I've had it for years. I haven't needed it in 16 years.
It smelled regret.
It's just me in general. You stay tuned, Texter. I am going to talk a little bit about that later on in the show, because you were not the only other Saints fan. I've met a handful, but more importantly, we're going to talk about how it relates to the rest of the NFC South, how it's going to impact the Panthers, the Falcons, and the Bucs as well, coming up later on in the show. But before we do any of that, we got to do this.
Let's do lunch.
This is a very nutritious lunch. All the food groups are represented.
What in the wide world of sports is going on here?
The lunch breakdown of 3 things you have to know before you go start talking sports with your friends, family, coworkers, or the dog. When you gather around the lunch table today for the vittles, this will be the scuttlebutt. These will be the 3 things that you were talking about today. We start with item number 1 on the lunch breakdown. In their final year on the Public Baseball Writers Association of America ballot, every one of the names that we mentioned yesterday, McGuire, Sosa, Clemens, Schilling, and others, saw their 10th and final year of eligibility come and go without being added to baseball's Hall of Fame by the writers' side of the vote. Now, the rest of them will pass on to the 17-member players panel, where they will have one final shot at being elected to the Hall of Fame. There are 17 members of that panel. Those players will need 12 of those players or former players to vote them into the Hall of Fame. There was one member who did get in, one member and one member alone who did get in, and it was Big Papi, David Ortiz. Clip number 1, if you don't mind, please, Lonzo, because yesterday on ESPN, after the announcement was made that the only member of the class of 2022 was going to be Big Papi, Tim Kurkjian and Jeff Passan both went on to talk about exactly why it is that Papi is in the Hall.
Well, obviously, this is the right move. He won 3 world championships. He made 10 all-star teams. He had 541 homers and had a 931 OPS. Only 7 players in history can match both of those numbers. Look at his postseason career. He's one of the best postseason players ever. 2013 against the Cardinals in the World Series, he hit 688, and the rest of the team hit under 200. And when you're looking at the history of the Red Sox, Ted Williams is obviously the greatest Red Sox player ever, but you could make a case that either David Ortiz or Carl Yastrzemski is the second greatest Red Sox ever. That's how big an impact he had on that team, a leader in every way, and a Hall of Famer on the first ballot.
I think you can make a case that he's the second best Red Sox player ever. I think, Timmy, you could actually make a case that David Ortiz is the most important Red Sox player ever. Let's remember, it had been 86 years between World Series when they won in 2004. Then they won in 2007. Then they came back and won in 2013 when David Ortiz looked like Barry Bonds in the postseason. I mean, of all the numbers, the 688 is great. He struck out 1 time in 28 plate appearances during that World Series, as locked in as I've ever seen a hitter. But more than that, the reason that David Ortiz is so resonant among Boston Red Sox fans is the personality. This is somebody who I think it really played in his favor with voters here. David Ortiz tested positive in 2003 for performance-enhancing drugs in the survey testing, but he is the first player to test positive and go into the Hall of Fame, and I think a lot of that is because of who he is and what a great person he is in the city of Boston.
And, of course, Big Papi did test positive, but remember, he tested positive way back in, what was it, 03, when they had that big batch of what was supposed to be anonymous player test, right? Now, what was interesting about that is there are a lot of question marks about that batch of anonymous testing, including the fact that they reported more positive samples than they had players taking tests. So there are a lot of question marks, and I think that's part of the reason Papi gets off. But as I said yesterday, at the end of the day, your personality and how you act as an ambassador away from the field, we can argue that it should or should not matter, but it does. Like it or not, it does. I think a big chunk of the reason Bonds and Clemens and Schilling haven't gotten in is because they have not been ambassadors for the game, right? I'm not saying you got to the writers, but you got to be an ambassador to the game. Papi's been an incredible ambassador to the game. The rest of those guys have not, and I think that's Wade. We're going to talk more about that later on in the show, but we got to fly through the final 2. Item number 2 on the lunch breakdown. We now have the official 3-stretch schedule and the location for the next 3 Team USA Soccer World Cup qualifying opponents. We've got a trio of games coming up. including against El Salvador. That one's going to be tomorrow evening in Columbus, Ohio. Then they'll travel to Ontario, Canada, where they will take on, obviously, our neighbors from the north, America's Hat, Canada. And then they'll round out the trio against Honduras in St. Paul, Minnesota. And you'll notice one thing. What would you say, Lonzo, that Columbus, Ohio, Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, and St. Paul, Minnesota all have in common?
Why, Rob, I would say it's snow.
Freaking cold, man.
Personal experience with Ohio and Columbus, since, that's where I was born. And yeah, that's why I'm one of the main reasons why I'm here, because it's not as cold here and there's no snow and it doesn't make sense. But do they have indoor stadiums?
Do they? Yes.
Are
Are
they
they
using
using
them?
them? No.
Really?
All 3 games set to be played outside. And
But you know what? Good on them. Good on them. Good. No. Football is played out in the cold. This is the world's football. Why not? It's not.
because the Americans have one massive advantage over at least the first and the last 2 games. The 2 games, they have the option of where to play, right? They could have put these games in Texas or Florida or Southern California, somewhere where it's nice and warm. In games against Honduras and El Salvador, 2 teams that we should be able to just out-athlete, right? Play good soccer and win the game, but just outrun. Be faster, bigger, stronger than these smaller countries. You are negating your number 1 advantage by playing in the snow, right? You're negating you are taking away speed. You are taking away quickness. You are taking away counter strikes by playing in snow. According to
but
AccuWeather.com,
I just want to say real quick, when's the last time El Salvador?
and that's an argument that Greg Berhalter, the manager, has made, right? Like these guys in El Salvador and Honduras, they're coming up from equatorial regions. They're coming up from where in Honduras and in El Salvador right now, it's probably in the 80s, in the 90s.
Equatorial. That's a good word. Is that really a word?
It is.
I knew what it.
It means
Yeah.
around the equator.
No, I got it.
In the region of the
I
equator.
got it.
Yeah,
That was
equatorial.
awesome.
You're welcome. So these countries coming from equatorial regions, you're right, they don't train in the snow. AccuWeather.com says the forecast for tomorrow's match, which kicks off at 7 p.m. Against El Salvador, is going to be in the low 20s, light winds, intermittent snow. Then they'll play in colder, like 10-degree weather against Canada, though there is no snow predicted. Then back they go to take on Honduras. Forecast call for temperatures of, Lonzo, 9 degrees. That's not enough degrees.
It's better than 9 below, though.
Yeah, still not great. It's also worse than 50 degrees, Play these games in Texas. Play these games in California. Play these games in Orlando. Play these games where people are going to, because here's the other thing. Soccer already, the men's team already has enough problems getting people to turn out to games. Lonzo, I'm a big guy, a big soccer guy. If they were playing this match in Charlotte, I'm there. They're playing this match in Atlanta, I'm there. If they're playing this match in heck, maybe Jacksonville, I might even go to Jacksonville. Take a little weekend trip to see my friends in Jacksonville. If they were playing there. But if they were playing here and it was 9 degrees with a 94% chance of snow, I got to tell you, my TV's looking better and better. The old 60-inch is looking better and better, boys. Am I a bad fan? Maybe. But you know what else I am? A freaking warm one.
How did they choose these sites?
It is up to Team US Soccer. When you host
'Cause I'm picturing the bingo hopper where you spinning
Well,
that thing and the number pops out.
So here's the thing. Greg Berhalter, effectively the manager of the team, the coach of the team, if you will. Greg Berhalter basically gets to pick where he wants these games to be, right? Like the president of US Soccer said, if this was the Senate, in this vote, Greg Berhalter gets 51% of the votes. He basically gets to pick where they go. And Berhalter said he did it for a couple of reasons. The first one in the snow, as a tune-up for the second one in the cold against Canada, right? Like, let's go get a cold weather game under our belt so that 3 days later when we're playing in Canada, the cold's not a shock. We just did it 3 days ago. He also said that he likes to minimize travel time. right? And if you'd have played this game in LA or Austin or Orlando, you would have had a full day's worth of travel to get up to Canada to play that game, then to get another full day's travel to get back. There's only 3 days between games, right? We got Thursday. Actually, I lied. There's only 2 days between games. You got a game Thursday night, then turn around and play another one Saturday in Canada. You're effectively committing like 33% of time that could be spent resting, healing up, giving treatment, training, getting used to the cold, etc., by having to travel from the north or from the south to the north end of the country and back. It's a strategical pick here, but I don't wonder if we're overthinking it in giving up our speed our speed advantage and our countering advantage to smaller, slower teams by putting ourselves in snowy environments. I don't know. All right, here's a couple of texts that have come in so far. Texture says, U.S. soccer is smart to play games in frigid areas where they are playing warm weather teams who don't have fan bases there. In L.A., would be more El Salvador fans in the stadium than U.S. fans. Okay, that's not true, but I get the point you're making. There would not be more in Orlando, maybe, right? In Orlando, maybe, but not in L.A., especially with these two teams. Now, if it was Mexico, right? If we were lining up against Mexico, I'd agree. Drag them up to, like, North Maine if we're taking on Mexico. But El Salvador and Honduras, I don't know how I feel about that. Let's take a break. When we come back, that Hall of Fame vote. Big Poppy is in. Bonds, Clemens, Schilling, McGuire, Sosa, not. Fair or foul? Ask you that when we come back on the Rob Brown Show on ESPN Upstate.
Rob always leaves to go to the restroom when I really need to go to the restroom, you know.
How important that responsibility is. So we take the time to really get to know them. Get to know them how? We make sure we understand their unique goals, finances, family, and lifestyle, so we can tailor their portfolio to their specific needs. Our goal is to help them achieve a comfortable retirement. Sounds like a big responsibility. You must make big commissions then, right? No, we don't sell commission-based products. We have one single transparent fee that's structured so we do better when our clients do better. Visit FisherInvestments.com to find out why investors like you are switching to us. Fisher Investments, clearly different money management. Investing in securities involves the risk of loss.
These deals are hot, red hot. Those Kevin Rogan in the center of the sun. These red hot deals are lighting up your local Eagles this Friday and Saturday. Eagles, low prices, love, red hot savings.
If you're looking for a new job with great pay and benefits, Auto Kineton is for you. Formerly Tower International, Auto Kineton is hiring with a $500 to $2,000 sign-on bonus. They are looking for second and third shift production technicians with starting pay at $16.80 an hour and maintenance technicians with starting pay of $22.50 an hour. Rate increases after 90 days. Don't miss their hiring.
So are we're gonna all pretend that Otis didn't misspell the first word in the spelling bee?
He
We're just gonna
absolutely,
glance over the
he
fact that
absolutely
that he
misspelled.
just
Yeah.
misspelled the word. And they gave him
Yeah.
credit for it.
Apparently it was okay that he misspelled it. I was wondering if anybody else noticed that. Question is, did he misspell it on purpose to make it look like it was all set up, or will they cover it that way?
They might have to. But how do you, right? Like, you basically just revealed your moderator as a member of Alpha Academy. The Rob Brown Show's back on your radio. It's ESPN Upstate. Rob Lonzo and you, thank you for spending your Wednesday afternoon with us, upstate South Carolina. It's great to have you. So we mentioned just a minute ago in the lunch breakdown that our Hall of Fame votes are done. The Baseball Writers Association of America have released who is in. It is Barry Bonds, Sammy Sosa, Mark McGwire, Curt Schilling on the and Roger Clemens on the out list. Only David Ortiz, Big Papi, is going in into the Hall of Fame. 77.9% of the votes gave him the thumbs up. The 58th player elected in his first year of eligibility. He is 46-year-old and is now the youngest of the 75 living members of the Hall. Ortiz said, "I learned not too long ago how difficult it is to get in on the first ballot. Man, it's a wonderful honor to be able to get in on my first rodeo. It's something that is very special to me." Barry Bonds, Sammy Sosa, Roger Clemens, Curt Schilling, Mark McGwire, all of them, without a doubt, posted numbers that were surefire first ballot Hall of Fame guys if they weren't connected to the steroid controversy. And there were a lot of folks yesterday that said, whoa, hold up. Papi was too, right? Papi was connected to the steroid situation as well. And you're right, he was. Remember the whole Balco situation? Remember when we couldn't get a day of sports talk radio in without talking about Balco when that whole thing dropped. And we had the report where Lonzo, that's the guy who dumped all the trash on his head yesterday. That guy out there walking. I don't know if you can see him going behind the dumpster right now. That's the guy. That's the poor guy yesterday that poured an entire box of trash on his head. Oh, poor guy. I never heard yesterday, so they must not be listening. Might have to go down there and tell him, hey, man.
They're not exactly in our demographic, so yeah.
All right, so those guys post numbers that are surefire Hall of Fame numbers and did not get in connected to the situation. The test that Papi's positive came back for was in a large grouping of tests. They were supposed to be anonymous samples sent to a lab that were not going to be directly connected to players, but effectively what baseball was doing at the time was trying to see what percentage of players in an anonymous survey would test positive, because there was a number, and I don't remember what it was. It was, 17 years ago? Something like that? Good Lord, I'm getting old. It was like 17 years ago. And the premise of these anonymous tests was that baseball was going to see if there was a percentage of players who would test positive to trigger league-wide testing, right? At the time, they were testing suspicion, and they were going to say, okay, if it gets to 40 or 50 or 60, I don't know what the number was, percent of the league that test positive in an anonymous round of testing, then we will start doing league-wide testing, and we'll make sure everybody's clean. Papi's sample was leaked out as one of the positives, as were a handful of other players. And a lot of people flipped. Now, that round of testing came out and effectively said that there were as many or more positive samples as there were samples submitted. So there were a lot of questions about the efficiency of the test, about the effectiveness of the test, about whether the tests were improperly handled, if they were missed, if they were, accidentally substituted with secondary test samples, etc. And there's a good reason why baseball never really acted on that anonymous set of tests. They never acted because there were so many questions about them that they felt like it would be, I don't want to say inefficient, but it would be almost kind of foolish to go, okay, we're going to do league-wide testing at the expense of the league based on this round of what may very well have been flawed testing, right? We got a problem with it here. And that's why Ortiz never really got mentioned. Now, Ortiz got tested a lot after that sample came back positive in that questionable round of testing. He got questioned a lot, and he never came up positive again. Never came up positive again. Now, there are some other guys on that list that also never officially tested positive. But the majority of them have either A, acknowledged that they did it, like Mark McGwire. Mark McGwire admitted that he had used PEDs during his home run crusades. Admitted that he had used it. I believe Alex Rodriguez at one point admitted that he had used PEDs. I believe that he said that it was accidental, that he did not know at the time that the substances he was using were against league standards, but he did admit that he did it. I'm assuming A-Rod is probably going to get in when he comes up on the ballot because he acknowledged that he did use these substances, but said, I didn't know that at the time. I was unaware that they were banned at the time. Is that enough? I don't know. I suspect it will be. Because as I mentioned, the other thing that I think plays a much larger role in whether guys get in or not is their attitude away from the field. Are they a good ambassador for baseball? I put up an article on ESPNUpstate.com. I want you to take a minute and go read today and give me your thoughts on it. Jeff Passan yesterday put out a take that said it is egregious that Barry Bonds would not get into the Hall of Fame with his numbers. And his argument was the Hall of Fame is a museum that tells the story of baseball's history. And good, bad, or ugly, the steroid era was a part of baseball's history. Good, bad, or ugly, Barry Bonds is a major player in baseball's history. And his argument goes that Bonds and the rest of these guys should go in, whether or not they roided, because they are a part of baseball history, and the Hall of Fame is a museum to tell that story. But I like Jeff Passan a lot. I'm a big fan. I think he does great work for ESPN. But I disagree with his take on this. The Baseball Hall of Fame is not a museum. Is it a place that stories are told? Yes. But the Baseball Hall of Fame does not tell the story of baseball. The Baseball Hall of Fame should be, let me verbally italicize that. The Baseball Hall of Fame is a place that should be used to tell the story of those who excelled in baseball and made the game better for it. Not to tell the story of baseball, but to tell the story of those involved in baseball who excelled at it, right? There's a big argument going on right now, and I know that this is going to spark some controversy, but what the hell, let's go. Big argument right now about the concept of Civil War statues, right? And the argument devolves down, I put this in the article, the argument devolves down into one of two stances. And I'm not saying that everybody who has an opinion on this falls in one of these two classes, but for the most part, this is pretty much the generalized of it. Those who think that Civil War statues, monuments to the Confederate soldiers should stay up, go, this is the story of America, right? This is a part of the story and we should not forget it. And then the other side is, we're not asking you to forget it. We're asking you not to celebrate it. There is a difference, right? When the Baseball Hall of Fame, I fall into the second camp. In regards to the Baseball Hall of Fame, I fall into the second camp. You can tell a story without celebrating it, right? You can and should tell some stories without celebrating them. The Baseball Hall of Fame is not a museum to tell the story of baseball, including the ugly parts. The Baseball Hall of Fame is a place where you celebrate those who made the game great, those who accomplished great things within the game, those had great careers or helped prop up the sport, etc. Now, there are going to be some ugly traits attached with some people who made baseball great. But a lot of those ugly traits are things that happened away from the baseball diamond. Yes, I know that there are known racists and misogynists inside the Baseball Hall of Fame, and I don't want to celebrate that aspect of them. But what they did inside of baseball is part of what made baseball baseball, right? And you can celebrate that while also calling out the racism and the misogyny, et cetera, et cetera. What's keeping guys like Bonds and McGwire and Sosa and Schilling and Clemens out are things that they did on the field, within the game, that damaged the game, that damaged the reputation of the game. I am saying that we will always talk about the steroid era. Hell, it's been 10 years and we're still talking about the end of the steroid era. The story of baseball, yes, it involves the steroid era. And it involves Barry Bonds and Curt Schilling and Roger Clemens and Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa. Zoe and I talked yesterday about the fact that when Sosa v. McGwire in the race to chase Maris was happening, ESPN used to cut into live basketball games and go, all right, we're going to take you out to St. Louis now. Mark McGwire coming up to bat in the third inning. Inconsequential game, right? Cardinals up 7-0 already, but we're going to cut into one at bat. And then 30 minutes later, they'd go, all right, to the Windy City, Sammy Sosa at the dish in the top or in the bottom of the fourth inning. One at bat for Sammy Sosa. And we all loved it because it was great drama. Then we found out how they got there, what they did to accomplish that. We'll still tell the story. We'll still talk about the drama in the race and what it meant and how it invigorated a lot of us back into baseball, but it does not mean that you have to celebrate guys who did things against the game in order to get there. Jeff Passan saying it's a museum. I get what he's saying, Lonzo, but I disagree. Museums are places for education and telling the story of a thing. A hall is for celebrating the greatness of it, and there is a difference.
So here's what we need to do. We need to find what exactly is the steroid era, remove all those players from existence, remove any records that were set, any accomplishments that happened because they don't exist according to the Hall of Fame voters. So that should just be stricken from the record. So I don't know how many years it was. It's the steroid era. I mean, how many years makes an era? 5 years, 10 years, whatever. There should just be a blank spot right there. So you look in the history of baseball, you get to a certain spot, you stop, and then you skip over.
No. In fact, I put that in the article because I heard that argument coming. I put that in the article. The guys that I'm asking to keep out are the guys that have been caught, the guys that have admitted it, and the guys that cause damage, right? I'm not going to say everybody who played from 1996 to 2006 is ineligible because you can't do that, right?
Right now, the worst Hall of Fame in all of sports is the Baseball Hall of Fame. And I would put the WWE Hall of Fame above the Baseball Hall of Fame. They are the worst one. Every year we get this same kind of story, and it hasn't changed. It's not going to change. And it shouldn't be a story. The story should be who's getting in, not who's not getting in, and the reason why. And we'll see what happens when these players have moved on. We'll see if they get in anyway.
There are going to be guys. Listen, there's going to be guy. Texter says, Rob, you don't think today's players are using some performance enhancing drugs? If you think that, you got your head stuck up.
By the way, they had to change the rules for pitchers. They know they're still cheating. So any pitcher who has been caught cheating, they cheated. So they did something to change the throw of the ball, which means they changed the game that they were in, which means they should not be eligible for the Hall of Fame because they cheated and they were caught cheating. And that happened during the game. It wasn't off the field or off the diamond. It was on the diamond. So with the logic that you talked about earlier, those guys should not be eligible for the Hall of Fame.
If you wanted to say that a pitcher who got caught doctoring the baseball on the hill was no longer eligible for baseball's highest honor, I wouldn't have a great argument against it. Honestly, I heard somebody say yesterday, if you catch a kid cheating during a test, right? I'm going to give him credit. Mark Ryan had this. It's a good take. I very rarely agree, but it's a good take. If you walk into a classroom and you catch a kid cheating on a test, and his argument is, well, guys before me cheated, and guys after me are going to cheat, do you go, oh, great point, and give him an A+? No, you don't. He gets a 0. And the guys who got away with it sucks, but they got away with it. Let's take a break. Back after this on the Rob Brown Show, ESPN Upstate.
I'm Christine Lisi. ESPN's Adam Schefter is reporting the Vikings have hired Browns Vice President of Football Operations Kwesi Adofo-Mensah as their general manager. One day after the NFC North rival Bears hired Chiefs
This
executive
time we
Mike
know
Tomlin
who
as
it
their
wasn't.
chair. The first order of business.
Oh.
And that's kind of funny, seeing as how that person's always putting the fan up, unless he thinks it's the opposite direction to make it work.
Said earlier this week he needed about 2 to 3 weeks to decompress and assess how he feels before making a decision. Also, that he wouldn't rule out a return even if quarterback Tom Brady doesn't come back. NBA Maverick star Tim Hardaway Jr. suffered a fractured foot in last night's loss to the
I
Warriors.
can't.
It's not known at this point
Oh,
how
okay.
he's sidelined.
Yeah, because who it came from, I just don't recognize it. Really, in truth, I don't have my glasses on, so I couldn't read it.
So you can block out all the noise and focus on what matters. That's what you can get with the all-new 2022 Lexus NX. To discover more about this next level crossover, visit lexus.com/NX.
Restrictions may apply. Prices and costs of coverage may vary. Talk, check my coffee details. Look, no mistake for everyone right now. It's been a tough year, and you sure don't need to get hit with a big unexpected.
Did you see the thing where Burrow said that Zach told him, don't pretend like your headset went out so you can call your own plays? And then it actually went out in Tennessee for like 4 or 5 plays. He called his own plays. That's definitely a guy you could see going like this, even though just because he didn't like the play. Yeah.
I got it.
Sorry, coach. Didn't have time. Didn't want to waste the timeout.
And never pay for car repairs again. Dial 800-279-2827.
With just one spray of Microban 24, your hard surfaces are sanitized for up to 24 hours. Touch after touch after touch.
So 6 hours from now?
Still sanitized.
12 hours?
Yep.
18 hours?
We're really doing this.
24 hours?
When used as directed, one spray of Microban keeps killing 99.9% of bacteria, touch after touch for, up to 24 hours.
Wow.
Microban 24, the sanitizer 4 out of 5 doctors use in their own homes. So why aren't you?
Here at Frank's Red Hot, we put together a completely exhaustive.
Did you read the stream?
Frank's Red Hot. Number 2, wings. Okay, it looks like that's it. Frank's Red Hot. I put that on everything. Dispensing real, unfiltered sports talk every
Texter says baseball is a sport of D-bags. They all cheat and try to at all levels. They even teach stealing. You had me in the first half, Texter, not gonna lie. You had me in the first half. Texter says Pete Rose as a player should be in the Hall of Fame since he broke Ty Cobb's record fair and square. I'd rather have Pete Rose in the Hall and banned as a manager than letting in any of the cheaters who ruined Maris and Hank Aaron's records. I do not honor cheaters, end quote.
So make them disappear. They never existed. They never played the game. and just move on.
No, see, this is
And then when the next cheater comes up, you got to do the same for them, and,
Right,
and then continue to be consistent.
you're doing the thing. You're doing the thing like pretending there's not a middle ground, right? Like this is I sincerely think
There is never any middle ground,
there
Rob.
is a middle.
Never-
This is this is why I get so damn frustrated with politics in this country, right? Because there's no, you're either way over there or you're way over there, and there is no. There's life is gray, man. Life is not black and white, red and blue. Life is purple, man. It's somewhere in the middle. Life is purple
I agree. I disagree. Life is sunshine.
and shadow, man. Look outside. It's sunshine and it's shadow. It's light and dark. It's black and white. It's red and purple. It's red and blue. It's purple in
Hey,
the middle.
you dwell in your darkness, and I'll dwell over here in the light.
Why am I in the darkness?
Because you have to bring up the shadow all the time.
All right, listen. It's not red and blue, it's purple, right? And this is why I get frustrated. Like, this is why when it comes to the Civil War monuments discussion, which seems to evoke in sports fans the same passion as this conversation does, right? It drives me crazy when they go, you can't take the statues down, you can't erase history, right? And no one's arguing that we erase history. We're saying don't celebrate it. And on the flip side, people go, I don't know why you'd want these statues up. And I'm like, do you not understand that for many people across the South, these are their ancestors, right? This is family. This is family. It's where they came from. There's a middle ground in the middle somewhere, and we need to work to find it as opposed to just going, nope, everything you think is wrong and everything I think is right. To say Barry Bonds should not be in the Hall of Fame doesn't mean we should, remove him to Voldemort territory. He who shall be named, right? Ladies and gentlemen, home run king, name redacted. I'm not saying we can never say, watch this, Barry Bonds. You can say the name. We can talk about that. We told yesterday the story of how I, as a younger man, was enthralled by the Sosa McGuire chase. My little brother was a big Cubs fan. So therefore, I hated everything about the Chicago Cubs. We used to race to the TV to watch these guys at bat because I was a huge McGuire fan. Big Mac fan. I didn't understand what was going on at the time. But the fact is, the truth is somewhere in the middle. The far extreme is all these guys deserve to go in the Hall of Fame because their story is the story of baseball. And then the other extreme is we should never mention them when we talk the story of baseball. No, the truth is in the middle. Maybe they don't deserve baseball's highest honor. But maybe also we should talk about what happened. And we should talk about the prices that have been paid by McGuire, Sosa, Schillings, Clemens, Bonds, right? We should talk about what they did, what they accomplished, how they accomplished it, the detriment that came to them because of how they accomplished it, et cetera, et cetera. We should talk about these things. The world's purple, and it should be treated as such, all right?
Now I know why your wardrobe consists quite a bit of
Because I live in the middle,
purple.
baby.
Okay.
And that's not to say you shouldn't have opinions on things, right? You should have opinions on things. Literally, our job is to have opinions on things.
It's pretty sad that the narrative every time this comes around is people are waiting till certain writers die off. And once they do, that mentality supposedly will change. And it's actually voiced when some of these writers are getting older. That's what you hear all the time. So what they're saying is when they die.
Well, of course they do. Perceptions change with generations, right? Perceptions change with generations. My for instance, example you and I have talked about. My mom's generation, Lonzo's generation. You guys.
Really? Really?
You guys, for instance, it used to be very, very not couth to say curse words in public, right? And the majority of people my age don't care. Doesn't bother them. It's just a word.
It's a show of the lack of education and intelligence. But,
Yes.
If that's the way you want to go, you go right ahead.
Intellectual all the time. I am the uneducated one.
I never said I was smart.
No, it shows it shows that I don't need anybody else to tell me what I'm allowed to say and not to say, right? I don't care. But the point is that you're right. Views on things change over generations, and it may be that 10 years from now, when the current staff of Baseball Writers Association of America, when half of them are dead, and the next generation of baseball writers that are my age step into those shoes, the opinions might change. And they may introduce something to change again. But for now, it is what it is. Let me take a break. I'm going to go step out in the hallway and say some curse words to show my lack of education. Lonzo and Rob, the Rob Brown Show, ESPN Upstate. You saw the text?
I happened to see texters saying, "Hey, let the tech guy come back and make
and
fun
burn
of
you again." Yeah, yeah, that was pretty good.
Yeah,
that was pretty good. No, that was the first text we got.
Provide some entertainment.
Oh, just delightful entertainment. As soon as that news came across, I was like, Chris.
Especially for Lonzo. I haven't seen Lonzo laugh like that in quite a while.
It didn't hurt my feelings that much.
That was well, good. I don't keep up with anything. So, and I saw that you were wearing paraphernalia.
I'm gonna start having you come in once a week just to start making random NFL prognostications and see how many you
like the turtle.
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
see
yeah.
which piece of letter they like.
Yep. We're gonna bring in Captain America
You know
once
what?
a week.
Lonzo did something very similar a long time ago. We had NFL picks that we would do, and he liked using me as a control group because I know nothing about the NFL. In fact, I will tell you the way that I made picks was if I knew if like two teams at random.
Let's go to the game this weekend. Let's go Chiefs Bengals.
Chiefs Bengals. I would go Chiefs because I know the name of the quarterback, and I don't know the name of the Bengals quarterback.
Good enough. Chris is down. All right, let's do the other one then. Let's
That's
go.
how I picked it.
Let's go 49ers Rams.
49ers Rams. Honestly, the best. The best quarterback I'm going to come up with the 49ers.
Oh, that guy. Yeah.
No, the legend. From like the 80s.
Joe Montana, Steve
Montana,
Young.
thank you,
Okay.
Montana. But no, the most recent name that I would come up with is so yeah, that tells you how.
So we're going 49ers.
touch I am. But I do not know either of their current, so I would probably flip a coin and go. I'll go 49ers. Because
49ers Chiefs Super Bowl.
I can name more historical quarterbacks for that team.
Okay. If it turns out to be a 49ers Chiefs Super Bowl, you're making my betting picks for me on the Super Bowl.
Ask him how many times he won the picks, though. I mean,
Yeah,
you.
It was impressive. I mean, impressive to me because it was greater than 50%. We just put it on.
Yeah.
Just
I mean,
randomly.
60% is what's considered a good picker in Vegas. So
I'd say I was close. Probably not quite, but above 50.
that's genuinely impressive.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Lonzo can tell you the story about how that whole picking scenario and my career on the scoreboard ended.
I'm assuming great.
Well, I discovered Matt was cheating and I put my foot in.
Rob doesn't consider that cheating,
How
by
do
the
you
way.
cheat on picks?
He just took the Vegas line every time.
Yeah, he would just go look at what other people.
I mean, if you're in a straight up picking contest,
No, here's the thing. And I don't get me wrong.
pick the Vegas favorites every time.
No, you should pick what you believe, not what Vegas believes.
I believe Vegas is right.
I wanted Matt
Which means you have no opinion of your
because
own.
There was a
Right.
Right.
So I wanted Matt to make his picks based on what he knows about football. I'm making my picks.
I
based
see
on
what you're
I
saying.
know about football,
I see what you're
which I
saying.
admit is nothing. I wanted him to make his picks
Fair.
based on what he knows about
Yeah, that
football.
was mine and
Okay,
Chris's
I get it.
argument.
Do the same thing. I can go to the Vegas line.
All right,
Right.
we're coming
I get
back.
it.
We only
I
got
get
about 20 seconds. So no rejoin. No rejoin liner, just music.
The harbinger of NFL doom, Chris Evans, Captain America down the hall. How are the Saints doing, Rob? And 20 minutes later, my head coach quits. Thanks, Chris. Next hour is going to be busy. Stick around for it. Rob Alonzo, you at ESPN Upstate.
Yeah, Chris explained that better than I've ever been able to explain. That was the whole reason why we got upset with him, to the point where he'd print out his notes, but he would leave them
Right.
on the printer, and we would take turns stealing them. And he really, really got upset about that. We didn't steal them, though. We just misplaced them for him. Because that's the whole thing. Don't talk about your vast knowledge of something and then take what someone else does.
That's why I don't talk about my vast knowledge.
Yeah, but you're
'Cause I
not
don't have
other. You're not other people.
Have you heard Offsides with Mark Ryan?
Sunday, it's the championship round of the NFL playoffs as we bring you a special doubleheader. Hi, this is Scott Grant. Join me and the rest of our Westwood One crew for all the action. First, Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs host Joe Burrow and the Bengals in the AFC title game. Then, two division rivals battle each other for the NFC championship when the Rams take on the 49ers. Who will advance to Super Bowl 56 in Los Angeles? Hear the playoff picture unfold right here.
Sunday afternoon at 2 on your home for the NFL playoffs. ESPN Upstate.
Check this out.
For an official John Brown lockdown.
Represents for your win.
Unfiltered sports talk manufactured locally for the Carolinas. This is the Rob Brown Show.
Yeah.
Only on PTSD.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, hour numero dos of the Rob Brown Show goes now. This is ESPN Upstate. I'm Rob. He's Lonzo. It's great to be back with you. Hour number 2 getting underway now. Let's do this now because I don't know how much of this Lonzo has heard, but he's a big Gypsy King guy, big Tyson Fury guy.
I've been a little busy the last
Yeah, I know.
little bit. So
That's why I'm here. That's why I'm doing this segment for you, and I'm doing it live so that you can react. Tyson Fury has been going on Twitter and has been putting up video clips. Now, for those of you who maybe are big boxing fans, stick with me here for a minute because it's pretty incredible. I'm a boxing guy. I like boxing. I think boxing is a fantastic pastime. I think it's a great sport. I think great boxers are rare. And I think boxing, I know a lot of folks have jumped from boxing over to MMA. And my question is, por qué no los días, right? Right out both. You can like both. Boxing's a different form of sport. It's an art. There's a science and an art to it. And you've got to be able to combine the two. And Tyson Fury, after he knocked out Deontay Wilder a couple of months back, has been asking for his next fight. Well, there's basically right now at the top of the heavyweight division. And like it or not, the heavyweight division is what brings people to boxing, right? The biggest dude's the most power. The heavyweight division, if you ask people to name their greatest fighters of all time, with the exception of like Money May and Roy Jones, the majority of them are going to name heavyweights. Mike Tyson, Evander Holyfield, Joe Frazier, Muhammad Ali, etc. They're going to name the big boys. There are right now effectively 4 heavyweights at the top of the ladder. Tyson Fury is arguably the best of them. Dylan White is next in line for Tyson Fury. Anthony Joshua and Alexander, I just blanked on the last name, but that's how important it is. Anyway, the 4 of them are all going right now inside of the top 4. Those are the guys. Alexander Usyk. I knew I could get there. And there is the potential for a great series of fights between the 4, right? Great series of fights between the 4. That could happen. Except for they're not, because there's also a lot of drama between them. Dylan White is set up for the next fight with Tyson Fury. He is the mandatory challenger for Fury's belt. But the two of them just can't get together on how the purse should look and how it should be split. So they have a deadline of today to come to an agreement. And if not, then what's called purse bids will open up, which means that other promoters can step in and bid on putting the fight on, and whoever bids the highest, they will become the promoter that gets to host that fight. But the heavyweight landscape is complicated right now because Anthony Joshua has a rematch clause with Alexander Usyk, who he lost to a few months back as well. Anthony Joshua could very well call that rematch clause and get another fight. However, Usyk wants to fight Tyson Fury. Anthony Joshua has the option to accept a big bag of money to step out of the way. I will take a back seat, let you two fight. I'll pick up the winner and get paid. And he's not making a decision on that. So basically, Tyson Fury is now waiting to see what happens because Dylan White's waiting to see what happens with Usyk and Joshua. Joshua is the linchpin to make the next move, to either accept the step out money or to call the rematch, but he's not doing it. And it's infuriating Tyson Fury, who has been going on Twitter and making videos calling out those 3 guys, saying, somebody get in the ring and fight me. And they're pretty incredible. They sound like this.
Another gym session done. Tuesday morning smashed. Tick, 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 tock is the subject of today. Is Dylan White going to fight me? Is Anthony Joshua going to step aside? Let me know, because I am sick of looking at these bums. Sick of listening to their excuses. Tick, tick, tock. The time has run out the bottle. You're all getting a good hiding, cowards. I'm just going to keep videoing until one of these cowards decide to fight. You're all cowards, house bums. I don't care who I fight. AJ, Usyk, Dylan White, or any of them. Fight me. I'm the best man that's ever lived. And these are all coward bum dossers. I'll annihilate the lot of yous and destroy yous. Submit yous. Tap you down. Come and fight. I'm being asked this question over and over again. I do not know the answers to it. I'm ready to fight this weekend. I've been training 3 weeks. How long does a man need to train? Joshua's a coward. Usyk's a and Dylan White don't want to fight. So if you can prove me wrong, get to fighting. You pair of cowards. You're all cowards. You're all bum dossers. Either fight or do one. You pack of wet lettuces. I tell you what, boys. There's some pack of cowards out there. And some pack of talkers. I tell you that now. Making all the demands in the world. You cowards. Come and fight.
You pack of wet lettuces.
Yeah, that was my favorite part for sure. This is the first time I heard that. Yeah.
You pack of wet lettuces. Beautiful insult.
I'm now going to use that.
Oh yeah, it's going in
for
the
sure.
Going
Yeah.
in the Rolodexo insults. You pack of wet lettuce. He said, "I am the greatest man who's ever lived." Like, I'm sure he meant boxer, but I like the confidence.
Are you sure?
I'm not sure he meant boxer. Tyson Fury has exploded on Twitter because there's 3 other cats right now: Anthony Joshua, Alexander Usyk, Dylan White, and basically a bunch of, I don't even know that I would call it drama, right? Like drama, I think, is what Tyson Fury is stirring up with these videos, which I understand, by the way. But it's there's a lot of money on the line, and I get that. But I will say I'm in Tyson Fury's camp for one reason and one reason alone. With these 4 dudes at the top, Usyk, White, Joshua, Fury, it is probably the deepest at the top end that the heavyweight division has been in years. Years. There are, what, 7 potential fights between those 4, all of which I'd watch. There's a round robin of guys that could all genuinely carry the title. I think Tyson Fury's probably the betting favorite in any matchup against any of the other 3. But Anthony Joshua was a heavy favorite against Alexander Usyk, and Usyk beat him, right? I still think Fury's the best of the 4. I think the dude's got a concrete jaw and a right hook that put Deontay Wilder down multiple times in a fight. But Tyson Fury also got knocked down twice by Deontay Wilder, right? It was a very clear end to the fight. But there were about 3 rounds up front that even Lonzo, you had to be nervous with what Deontay was doing.
I was, but at the same time, that seems to be Tyson Fury's day. He's like a movie boxer. He has to get knocked down a couple times before he comes back and finds that inner strength, and it's just almost like it's scripted.
I don't think these 4 guys are. I don't. And maybe that's the optimist in me. But I don't see it as scripted. I think we have 4 really good fighters. 4 good heavyweight fighters. A deep top of the heavyweight division here that could be putting on a show. And I will acknowledge that this is one of those times where a guy like me, who loves the sport, who wants the sport to go back to being great, who wants the sport to grow, a guy like me wants to see the sport as well off as it can be. And these 4 guys have an opportunity to do that. I mean, any match between any 2 of those guys, effectively a 4-man tournament to claim the unified heavyweight championship of the world, would do numbers, man. Would do numbers. Lonzo puts money down on fights. Lonzo, if they were to do 3 fights, right, effectively what amounts to 2 semifinals and a final, and Tyson Fury's involved, you're paying for at least 2 of those fights, right?
I'm paying for the Tyson Fury fights. He has sold me and got me to actually pay the enormous amount of money it takes to watch a boxing match. And I know last week I didn't buy the UFC match, UFC thing, because there wasn't enough good fights on the card other than the main card. But with boxing, it's different. It's about that main event. You know, it's going to last longer, or could potentially last longer. And the Gypsy King, he got me. He got me, and I'm going to pay for whatever fight he does.
That's what I need, right? That's what I need.
But he's full package. You get this stuff like what we just listened to. He's on TV, he's on radio, he's everywhere, and he's pushing it. He is the complete showman. Some of the better boxers, especially heavyweight boxers of the past, were that, and he's one of those guys. All these other guys, do you even know a whole lot about them?
I mean, I know Alexander Usyk. He was introduced to the stage when he beat Anthony Joshua. I know Anthony Joshua because he's been number 1 in line for Tyson Fury for a while. And I know Dylan White because Dylan White has laid down some dudes on his path to Tyson Fury.
But the thing is, to get the fringe people like myself to come in, you've got to have someone like Tyson Fury that makes you want to either watch him lose or watch him win. And boxing itself needs more guys like Fury.
Oh, I don't disagree with that. Right? I don't disagree with that. I'm not a huge Tyson Fury fan. Not a big fan. But he won me over with this. He absolutely did. And again, I guess the conflict here comes in from the fact that I want boxing to be great. I'm a boxing fan. I want it to go back to being what it was, where, you know, every couple of months we had a Saturday night where I went, sorry, boys, I can't go out tonight. The XVY fight is on and I'm not missing it. Yeah, I absolutely want to go back to that. But I also understand if I'm Anthony Joshua sitting there with a rematch clause against Alexander Usyk, who's got a belt right now, knowing that if I win that belt, my next fight is a massive payday against Tyson Fury, I've got a decision to make, right? Because on one hand, I could get paid twice. I get paid step-aside money to let Usyk go fight Fury. And then I might get another shot at Fury after that. But the problem is Dylan White right now is the mandatory next fighter for Tyson Fury unless something else happens, which means that if I take the step-aside fight from Usyk and I don't get the belt and White beats Fury, Fury's likely going to jump back in line with Usyk waiting over there for the next shot as well. I could be out 4 fights before I get another chance at the payday. I'm looking out for number 1. I don't care about boxing, which puts him on the other side of the fence from me.
Step aside. That's chump money. You know what you make yourself look like if you step aside to allow someone else fight?
A millionaire.
Doesn't matter. I mean, in the height of macho that is boxing, you drop a ton by going, you know what? You guys go ahead and fight. What you need to do is, hey man, I want to fight. I want to fight. The next fight is me or nobody fights.
In the world that Lonzo is coming from, correct. That is absolutely correct. Lonzo, right now, if I asked you to come into the show tomorrow and wear a red dress, but I'll give you $5 million if you do it, you taking that money?
I have worn a dress in the studio before because I lost a bet. Because as a man or a woman or whatever, if you say, hey, if I lose, I'm doing this, you do it. So I've done that before. So yeah, that's easy money for me. If you got the cash, I'll take it.
I don't. But you get the point. I can tell you right
unfortunately, those videos still exist, even though I've tried to purge them.
I dropped out of the mentality about 10 years ago of caring when dudes question my macho. I don't care.
But we're not talking about you. We're not talking about me. We are talking about the height of macho, which is the heavyweight boxing
I understand.
arena.
I understand, but I can also tell you that even if I'm a millionaire, there's a price tag where I start to care dramatically less about whether you challenge my macho. Well, I understand where you're coming from. And to a degree, I agree with you. Yeah. If I got to call the shots, Anthony Joshua is fighting Alexander Usyk today. Tyson Fury's fighting Dylan White today. Both of those winners will get one of the two lineage belts. And then the two of them are having a massive fight to unify the belts once again. 100%. But these guys care about more about their own wallets and their own legacies than about the health of the sport. And I understand that too. I don't like it, but I understand it. Preferred Home Services text line open 71307, keyword ESPN. Start it with ESPN. We'll read them on the air. Phone lines open 844-GSP ESPN. Let's take a break. When we come back here in just a minute from right now, Mel Kiper's first mock draft has been released. Who's got the Panthers going with? Who's got the rest of the division going with? We'll take a look at that next on the Rob Brown Show on ESPN Upstate.
Sports Center update powered by The Score. Clemson basketball coming oh so close to picking up a win at number 9 at Duke yesterday. They ended up losing by 2, 71-69. PJ Hall had quite the performance with 14 points and 10 rebounds. The team is scoring and rebounds. Hunter Tyson, 13 points. Clemson will not play again until Wednesday, February 2nd, when they are going to match up against Florida State. Busy night of college basketball this evening. South Carolina, they are going to match up against Vanderbilt. Furman basketball, they are going to take on VMI. We'll have that broadcast for you right here. Wofford is set to take on Chattanooga, while South Carolina Upstate set to match up against Winthrop. Download the Score app today. Lightning fast sports alerts so you never miss a thing. It's why the Score app is one of North America's most popular sports apps. With your ESPN Upstate Sports Center update, I'm Matt Pauley. Golden Upstate radio station is your home for the NFL playoffs. It's ESPN Upstate. It's for Championship Sunday. Trophy game this week. Football's coverage kicks off at 2 p.m. as Joe Burrow and the upstart Cincinnati Bengals head to Kansas City to battle Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, followed by the NFC title game featuring two West Coast powerhouses as the San Francisco 49ers head to LA to lock horns with the Rams. The winners are headed to the Super Bowl. Hear every play of the NFL playoffs, including Super Bowl 56, only on ESPN Upstate.
I'm Chelsea Messenger, helping you beat the books with BetQL. Tonight in the SEC, South Carolina hosts Vanderbilt. South Carolina is a top 30 defense. Vandy is a bottom 50 offense. 2.5 weeks ago, South Carolina came into Nashville as the underdog and beat the Commodores outright. This time they meet Columbia with South Carolina as a short favorite. Oh, by the way, the home team 9-2 against the number in the last 11 matchups. Advantage Gamecocks.
With Credit Karma, you get your credit scores for free. But what else can Credit Karma do for you? Well, say you want to get a new credit card, one with a great interest rate and no annual fees. Credit Karma can help you compare the best cards for you and show you which are the highest rated by our members. Plus, you can see your approval odds up front, so you can feel more confident and apply in just a few clicks. All thanks to Credit Karma and your credit scores. Get your free scores and find the right card for you at Credit Karma. Approval not guaranteed, subject to check.
You could save big when you bundle your home and auto with Progressive. But when neighbors come out and say it feels like it falls a little flat.
So when the Eagles come to town, who sings the Glenn Fry part? I didn't realize he was doing that.
Or his boy. His boy's in the band too.
Is he?
Yeah. Glenn's boy's in the band. Texter says, I just became a Tyson Fury fan with the pack of wet lettuces quote.
nationwide 5G on America's best network. Pay a whole lot for your data when you can get unlimited for a whole lot less. Straight Talk Wireless. No contract, no compromise. 5G capable device required. Actual availability, coverage, and speed may vary. See terms and conditions at straighttalk.com.
There's nothing worse than coming home from a cold day to find out that your heater isn't working. When this happens, you need an HVAC company you can trust. A company like Priority Heating and Air. Their HVAC specialist will give your system a thorough checkup. And if you need a new unit, Priority Heating and Air is a proud distributor of the Coleman line of HVAC systems. To keep your family or business warm this winter, and give Priority Heating and Air a call today at 591-1847 or online at PriorityHeatingandAirHVAC.com. HVAC problem is our priority. Cutting the price of your wireless bill feels good, really good. Actually, You should try it out. So cut your bill by switching to Straight Talk Wireless. Now offering our $45 Silver Unlimited plan with 5 gigabytes of hotspot and nationwide 5G on America's largest, most dependable networks. The $45 Silver Unlimited plan from Straight Talk. Straight Talk Wireless. No contract, no compromise. See terms and conditions at straighttalk.com. 5G capable device required. Actual availability, coverage, and speed may vary.
Vivid Seats. Your ticket to hold on to your hat. Edge of Seat City. Bases loaded. 2-ounce half-court buzzer-beating 60-yard Hail Marys. Hear that pin dropping? Can they do it? They did. For your team, it was nothing. Get tickets and earn rewards with Vivid Seats. It might happen live.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, the Rob Brown Show rolls on. This is ESPN Upstate. Texter says, I just became a Tyson Fury fan with the pack of wet lettuces quote. Yeah, I suspect Lonzo and I are both going to drop that on somebody by the end of the day. You absolute pack of wet lettuce. I got a note in the phone that's just great insults that is now started with that one. You absolute pack of wet lettuce. Great one. Texter says, can the Panthers draft a new head coach in the NFL draft? So, Lonzo, let me run a theory by you that I find very interesting. We talked earlier in the week about the less, I think, conspiracy theory and more educated guess that the Panthers are setting up to draft a quarterback in the first round. They're going to roll the dice because if they hit on a rookie QB who comes in, has a really impressive opening season, Matt Rule could go to David Tepper and go, yo, whoa, hold up, wait a minute. We got this good, promising young rookie quarterback, and even if we only won 5 or 6 games, he showed promise that he might very well develop into something special. So why don't you let me stick around one more year and coach him up? And Tepper might listen. Go, okay, well, you did hit on a draft pick. You blew it with Darnold, but you hit on a draft pick. Let's see how this goes. But here's another theory that popped up yesterday. Sean Payton stepped aside as the head coach of the New Orleans Saints yesterday. There are now 9 NFL teams looking for a head coach. If the Carolina Panthers had fired Matt Rule, we would have 10. On that list of teams that need a head coach, where would you rank, Lonzo, the Carolina Panthers as a destination job?
Middle of the pack? I definitely wouldn't put him on the bottom. I'm guessing you would. No way I put him on the bottom.
I'd put him towards the bottom. I might put him ahead of the Houston Texans.
Nah, because that from everything I've heard, and a lot of it coming from Mark, since he used to work in the market, is that team is a mess even before all the Deshaun Watson stuff.
That team's a dumpster fire.
Yeah.
That's why I said I might put him ahead of Houston.
So there's no way they go ahead of Houston. I think it's...
I'm talking as a job you would want.
Right. It really comes down to what they have, each team, what they have, first of all, a quarterback, and then the rest of the team. So maybe the rest of the team's really good. They just need a quarterback. I think those are the things you look at, or maybe you look and go, man, that's a really good defense. I'm an offensive guy. I can turn that offense around. Sure. I think a lot of it factors into whether Christian McCaffrey can stay healthy. And it kind of looks like it's the other direction that he can't. But a healthy Christian McCaffrey, and if you believe that he is a healthy Christian McCaffrey, arguably one of the better backs in the league when he is healthy, some would say the best.
I don't believe that.
Well, I do.
The healthy part. That'll be healthy.
Yeah. Well,
I do believe if he ain't the best back in the league when he's healthy, he's second, right?
Behind someone at New Orleans.
Correct.
Yeah, of course.
Correct. But I just said he might be the best. If he's not the best, he's second. I would say Carolina, if we had 10 vacancies, if they didn't have Matt Rule, I'd say Carolina's ninth. I would say
No,
Carolina
no
ninth.
way, no way.
All right, let's do this then. Let's do this then. You're gonna make me go down the list.
Well, yes, I am.
Here we go. Here are the 10 teams that are open. I want you to tell me if it's a more attractive job or not than the Carolina Panthers, if the Panthers job is open. The Las Vegas Raiders, more attractive job or not?
Not.
It's not a more attractive job than Carolina.
No, it is.
Oh, it is a more attractive. Okay.
The wording was
Okay,
yeah, yeah.
let's clarify. It is either a better job or not than Carolina. Denver Broncos.
This I have to put bias aside and
Put bias aside.
and say better job.
Denver's a better job.
Yes.
Agreed. Jacksonville Jaguars.
No.
Not a better job than Carolina.
No, not at all.
I hate the Jacksonville Jaguars. I hate the city of Jacksonville. I hate it. As a matter of fact, last night I was hosting trivia, and there was a table full of folks from medical school there that are in their last 100 days to become a doctor. And one of the girls at the table says, "Hey, you're from Florida," you said. And I said, "Yeah." And she said, "I'm thinking about going to Florida for my residency. Would you suggest it?" And I said, "I love Florida. Where are you thinking about going?" And she said, "Jacksonville." And I said, "I would rather not be a doctor and still have to pay back my doctor student loans than be a doctor in Jacksonville."
I know you don't like Jacksonville, but
Hate it.
from everything you said, she probably would get a lot of work there and get a lot of practice.
Yeah, from all the gunshot victims.
There you go. You're going to get good at your craft there. That's where you want to go and learn.
All right. That being said, the Jacksonville Jaguars are a better job than
No
Carolina.
way. No.
They
No.
got Trevor Lawrence. They got Travis Etienne. They got the first round pick. And you know what they're sitting on in cap space right now? About $70 million.
Yeah, but
They are gonna
the
go on a
team,
shopping
the-
spree.
The team sucks.
Right.
So no,
With $70 million of cap space to work with.
not the best. No way it's better than the Panthers.
Absolutely is. Miami Dolphins. Better job, not a better job. Are you okay over there, buddy?
Yeah, I'm trying to. Yeah, I guess I'm on the fence on this, but I'll lean towards Miami being a better job.
I would as well. I'll be interested. We'll see. Chicago Bears. Better job, not a better job.
Better job,
Absolutely better job. Minnesota Vikings. Better job, not a better job.
not a better job.
I'm intrigued by that because they got their new GM today, Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah, who spent the last 2 seasons as Cleveland's vice president of football operations.
Well done, by the way. With
Thank you very much. I worked on it. They got Dalvin Cook. They got Justin Jefferson. They've got a very patient ownership group, right? They let
You-
Zimmer go there as long
You
as he wanted.
have to be patient with the quarterback. Yeah.
Well, you ready for some fun little smoke that's been coming out of the NFL circle today? Minnesota is emerging as a potential likely landing
Aaron
spot
Rodgers?
for Deshaun Watson.
Oh, Deshaun Watson.
Yes,
Okay.
for Deshaun Watson.
Yeah.
Plug Deshaun in with Dalvin Cook and Justin Jefferson. How's that offense look for you?
Probably pretty good, depending on the coaching.
Exactly right. New York Giants, better job, worse job?
Worse.
I would say this is probably one where I think you might be correct. But they got decent cap space. They've got 2 top 10 draft picks coming up. It's not an ideal cap space, but it's not in bad spot. I would say Carolina is probably level with the New York Giants in terms of a job right now. New Orleans Saints, better job, worse job than the Carolina Panthers right now today.
I'm just pausing just to make you
that's fine.
upset. Yeah.
Oh, I'm gonna surprise you with my answer.
Yeah, I think. See, I don't know. They're in the same situation as far as quarterbacks go.
Yep.
They both teams have pretty good running backs that when they're healthy, they're 1 and 2.
Good wide receiving core if Mike
yep.
Thomas comes back. Good
Yeah.
running back if Kamara and McCaffrey can stay healthy. Saints have a very good defense, just like the Panthers do.
I'm going to say it's even, but if it would be a coin toss.
I would actually tell you the Saints is a worse job because they're like 70 million over the cap. They're about to have to shed some weight. Restructuring is going to be ugly. Now, Mickey Loomis, the GM at New Orleans, has been an absolute wizard at being able to restructure it's like every year the Saints are 70 million over, and every year they still find a way to sign a name or two, right? I think Mickey Loomis every year is in the running for GM of the year. But 70 mil without Sean Payton calling personnel shots with Mickey Loomis makes it a tough job. I would say the New Orleans Saints might be a worse job than Carolina, not by much, might be. And finally, the Houston Texans, better job, worse job than Carolina.
Of course, Carolina's better.
I would agree with that. So I'll be charitable and say that of the 10 head coaching vacancies, if Carolina had one, the best they're checking in is 8th. The best they're checking in is the 8th most desirable job. Maybe 7. Charitably, like generous, I'll say 7th out of 10.
5 or 6 for me. And then also you got to factor in if you got like 3 different players, there's a couple coaches out there that everyone's interviewing. And when it comes down, if they all get offered it, it's going to come down to money, and it's also going to come down to location. It shouldn't, but you're moving your family there and all that kind of stuff if you're the coach.
So, head coaching candidates that we think right now are potential targets. Number 1, Jim Harbaugh with the Michigan Wolverines. I see a lot of people calling for this. I think Jim Harbaugh likes it in Michigan. I think he's kind of man on a mission in Michigan. And I think Jim Harbaugh is probably using the NFL as leverage to get more money out of Michigan, but also keep that job. I don't think he's coming to the league. So
if he does go to the league, he could pretty much go to any of those teams.
Any of those teams he wanted. He could call a shot. I think your front runners for those 2 jobs would be Las Vegas and New Orleans. I think it'd be the top 2 jobs Harbaugh would look at, mainly because New Orleans has been predicated with an offensive style and has a lot of talent there already, and is known to basically let their head coach do whatever he wants. And Las Vegas because he said so. But I think he's using it as leverage. So, as of right now, Byron Leftwich in the last day has been reported to be in heavy talks with the Jacksonville Jaguars to be their next head coach, to leave Tampa Bay and go to Jacksonville. I don't understand the move, but Byron's a guy who played quarterback. He's got TL16 and Travis Etienne right there, and another number 1 pick coming up this year. Maybe it's a good chance. Brian Flores, former Miami Dolphins head coach, is out there. Josh McDaniels, New England Patriots offense coordinator, back into the mix for people. There's rumor that Matt Campbell, the Iowa State Cyclones head coach, is on the radar for a lot of NFL teams. He has turned down jobs in the past trying to build something out of Iowa State, but it looks like Iowa State might be at their ceiling right now, and the 3-time Big 12 Coach of the Year is getting rave reviews from NFL. Nathaniel Hackett, Green Bay Packers offensive coordinator, in the mix. Jim Caldwell, former Indy and Lions head coach, is in the mix. Matt Eberflus, Indianapolis Colts defensive coordinator. Patrick Graham is the New York Giants defensive coordinator. Eric Bieniemy from the Chiefs, Kellen Moore from the Cowboys, Marcus Brady, Colts OC, Todd Bowles, Tampa Bay DC, and Brian Daboll, Buffalo Bills offensive coordinator, are the names that I have seen popping up. There's 9. All right. There's 9 of those to go around. I'm excited by probably 3 of them. I'm meh on 2 of them. There is no guarantee that Carolina would land a head coach that you could for sure say is going to be better than Matt Rule. And as I mentioned yesterday, you'd have to put $11 million onto Matt Rule still to not coach the Panthers. This might be a calculated gamble out of Carolina. It might be a calculated gamble out of Carolina, knowing that as of now, this is going to win. This is going to be one of the busiest NFL coaching carousels that we've seen in a very long time. And if it is, which, I mean, they're at 9 already, and we may not be done, right? We don't know if any other coaches step down. If Tom Brady retires, could Bruce Arians follow him out the door at Tampa Bay? Yes. If Aaron Rodgers leaves Green Bay, would Matt LaFleur go, you know what? I don't want to be here anymore. There's too much chaos. I doubt it, but it's not a no, right? We may not be done. But the point is, Carolina is at its best, the 7th most attractive job out there. And I am basing that on one team having a deep salary cap number, but has historically managed its way around that over the past 16 years. The Saints have been in salary cap hell for years, and every year they restructure and figure it out, right? So maybe 8th, maybe 9th most attractive job available, ahead of Houston, maybe the New York Giants. And to me, that's it. Like, even Jacksonville's a more attractive job. So maybe this is a calculated move from the Panthers saying, all right, let's hang out a year. Let's give Rule 1 year, give him free reign. If he sucks next year, we'll jump first in line to the coaching carousel and offer a full rebuild. See what happens then. I don't know. It's just a thought. Quick break. We're at the halfway point of the show. When we come back here in just a minute, talk a little more U.S. soccer. They got 3 games coming up in the next week. And the Americans, in my opinion, they need to win 2 of them. Did they set themselves up for failure deciding to play 3 consecutive sub-freezing temperature games? We'll break that down next on the Rob Brown Show, ESPN Upstate.
I'm Christine Lisi. For the second time in as many days, an NFC North team has hired a new general manager. The Vikings hired Browns Vice President of Football Operations, Kwesi Adofo-Mensah, as their new GM, according to ESPN's Adam Schefter. Yesterday, the Bears hired Chiefs executive Ryan Poles as their next general manager. Buccaneers tight end Rob Gronkowski telling TMZ today that while he needs some time before making the call on whether he'll play next season, if he had to make the decision now, he wouldn't return to play in 2022. Earlier this week, Gronk said he'd need 3 to 5 weeks to decompress and assess how he's feeling before making a decision. Also said he wouldn't rule out a return even if quarterback Tom Brady's not back. Brady's been non-committal about his future. Knicks and Heat tip off the Wednesday NBA doubleheader, followed by the Suns and Jazz. Coverage starts with NBA Countdown at 7 Eastern on ESPN TV.
From the Ingles Market Studios is ESPN Upstate. 97 FM Greenville, 97.1 FM Spartanburg. ESPN Upstate.
An Odyssey station.
If you're looking for a new job with great pay and benefits, Auto Kineton is for you. Formerly Tower International, Auto Kineton is hiring with a $500 to $2,000 sign-on bonus. They are looking for second and third shift production technicians with starting pay at $16.80 an hour, and maintenance technicians with starting pay of $32.50 an hour. Rate increases after 90 days. Don't miss their hiring events every Thursday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at 141 South Chase Boulevard at Fountain Inn.
Mr. Clean, Mr. Clean. So a friend told me about Mr. Clean Magic Eraser, and his exact words were, "It changed my life. I used to spend a ridiculous amount of time trying to remove tomato sauce from inside our microwave and soap scum off the bathtub. It's like seriously magic, and my secret weapon for cleaning the kitchen, bathroom, doors, and walls, and even keeping my sneakers clean. Mr. Clean Magic Eraser. Greatest invention ever. Mr. Clean, Mr. Clean, Mr. Clean.
Mr. Clean Magic Eraser, the unicorn of cleaning. Research shows that people remember radio ads with lots of sound effects. So to help you remember that Liberty Mutual Insurance Company customizes your home insurance so you only pay for what you need, here are some zany sounds. Saving on home insurance is no laughing matter. Liberty Mutual customizes your home insurance so you only pay for what you need. The money you save could change your life. It's time for you to take your insurance choice seriously. Only pay for what you need at libertymutual.com.
You could save big when you bundle your home and auto with Progressive, but when we just come out and say it, it feels like it falls a bit flat. So we're going to sing it.
We're singing words now.
We'll even sing the business part.
Save big when you bundle your home and auto with Progressive.
That's a commercial you'll remember, even if you don't remember the bundle and save with Progressive part.
We're singing that commercial.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Discount not available in all states or situations.
This is the end of the jingle. A jingle about insurance.
I bought football tickets for my husband, and now I'm in a football bubble. All I see online are articles and ads about football. I hate feeling manipulated. I downloaded DuckDuckGo, and I saw a difference right away. Get privacy online with DuckDuckGo.
Making Moves is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs.
The 2005 Texas Longhorns began the season ranked number 2 and stayed there all season. Their defense allowed only 16 points per game, while their Vince Young-led offense averaged 15. The Longhorns went on to face USC in the BCS National Championship game against top-ranked USC, winning 41-38 in what many consider one of the greatest college football games ever played.
Build your winning team today. Go to linkedin.com/sports.
Teams that win college games have great recruits, and great recruiting starts with great conversations. That's why when you post a job for free, LinkedIn Jobs taps into a network of over 770 million professionals to find the right people for your role. LinkedIn Jobs helps you narrow down to only the most qualified candidates, which means you can start hiring the right people faster. Go to linkedin.com/sports to post your job for free. That's linkedin.com/sports. Terms and conditions apply.
We're not here to take part. We're here to take
A couple of texts on the Preferred Home Services text line 71307. Start your text with ESPN. We'll read them on the air. Texter says, if Brady announces his retirement, how long before Bruce Arians hangs it up? I don't know. 10, 15 minutes? Enough time for him to scroll across it on Twitter?
No, man, they do a joint press conference.
Oh, yeah.
We are retiring.
Him, Bruce, and Gronk right off into the sunset together. Texter says, ESPN, Saints without Peyton and no outlook at quarterback. I don't think players are taking a pay cut to play there anymore. They haven't really taken pay cuts. Like I said, the Saints have been really interesting in how they have kicked the can down the road as far as being able to consistently and constantly restructure pay salaries, etc., to make room. Now, listen, I absolutely understand that at some point it's going to burn, right? At some point the Saints are going to start, and it may be now. The Saints may just say, screw it, we're going into rebuild mode, right? Like, if Brady doesn't run it back, if Brady leaves, the only team that's not really in a rebuild mode right now is the Atlanta Falcons. And that's only because they're on the tail end of Matt Ryan's career, right? Unless one of these teams, whether it's New Orleans, Atlanta, or Carolina, lands a stud QB somehow, at least 3 teams coming into next year are in a rebuild mode, or at least very close to it. And if Brady leaves Tampa, Tampa Bay goes into rebuild mode too. The entire NFC South could be rebuilding next year, and that's not a joke, right? So if the Saints are going to rebuild, this might be a great time to do it. But they've still got a really strong defense, right? Top 10 defense in the league. They've still got offensive weapons. They just got to have somebody throwing the ball. Remember, Jameis Winston won his first 5, including wins over Green Bay and Tampa. Jameis Winston was good at the beginning of the year. He's a free agent now, and there's no telling if he'll take friendly money to come back to New Orleans for another year. But the Saints were in really good shape until Jameis Winston's knee exploded.
Any chance Matty Ice retires?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, because
Nor do I think the Falcons move on from him.
Okay.
Yeah, I think he's ingrained there. A lot of Falcons fans ready to move on. Matty Ice ain't y'all's problem. I promise. I promise.
Because if Brady retires,
Matt Ryan's the best quarterback in the South.
yes,
Jameis Winston, question mark. Dude was what we say it was 18 TDs to 5 or to 3 interceptions before he went down. Maybe. But again, he's not a Saint right now. He's a free agent. Don't know if he resigns or not. So we'll see. Wanted to get this in here real quick. United States World Cup qualifiers, United States men's national team. 3 games coming up in the next, 6 days? 3 games coming up in the next 6 days. They have got a game tomorrow evening in Columbus, Ohio. Temperature in Columbus, Ohio, to the shock of precisely 0 people, according to AccuWeather.com, is going to be in the low 20s, light wind, chance of intermittent snow. Then they go to Canada for Saturday. The temperatures are expected to be there around 15 degrees. No snow expected. It's supposed to be clear, but under 20 degrees. And then they go to St. Paul, because reasons, where they will take on Honduras in a match that is expected to be, check this, Lonzo, 9 degrees, wind gust of up to 20 miles an hour, and a 94% chance of snow in St. Paul when they take on Honduras in a few days.
out of the 3, Minnesota would be the would be the worst, I would think, as far as cold and snow.
Oh, yeah.
goes.
9 degrees, 94% chance of snow and windy. Nah, I'm good. If I'm in the pool, I might hurt my knee so I get left out of this round of qualifiers is all I'm saying. All right. I don't love it. And I don't love it for one reason. The United States are better athletes than El Salvador and Honduras. Can't do anything about Canada. That game's at Canada. It's their pick where we play. They decided to play at the coldest stadium they could find. I get it. That's their climate, right? But shouldn't we be doing the same thing? Shouldn't we be utilizing weather and where we play in order to give ourselves our best potential? The Americans sit right now second on the World Cup qualifier list. Top 3 teams go fourth place in a play-in tournament to try to earn a World Cup berth. Got to be in the top 3 when it's all said and done. Right now, the top 3 teams are Mexico, Canada, and the United States. Canada 1, US 2, Mexico 3. But there are some good teams sitting at 4 through 7 that could absolutely jump up and make some noise. I think the Americans, I mean, obviously we want 9. We want back-to-back wins. We want 9 points. Playing at Canada is going to be tough. I'd be happy with a draw there.
Are there points for a forfeit? Because you know, the Ecuadorians may show up and
no. Against Costa Rica about 4 years ago, called the Snow Classico, where they played in, I believe, in Colorado, and it snowed hard during that game. The Americans ended up winning that game. They've also played a snow game in recent memory, not a snow game, a cold game, the first 2-0, where we beat Mexico 2-0, was in like 30-degree weather, just below freezing. So we've got a history of coming up with results in cold weather games, not a lot of them. And Lonzo brought up a good point, which is the 2 teams that we are playing in our choice of venues in cold weather games are both equatorial teams. They both come from the Caribbean Sea and Central America. They are used to playing in 85 degrees even in the wintertime. It's warm there in the wintertime. And so to go out there and to make them play in the snow and the cold, maybe a bit of an advantage. But here's the thing. It's not exactly like the Americans are playing a ton of games in the cold either, right? Yes, like a good chunk of the roster come from up north, where they probably played their college ball in long pants and long sleeves. Sure. But the U.S. men's national team does not play a ton of cold weather games. The ones that we do stand out. I just gave you the last 2, and they've been within 4 years, 5 years. It's not like we have a ton of cold weather experience, right? We're treating it like this big home field advantage, but we don't really have a ton of experience in it. And so my question mark becomes, when you have the opportunity to out-athlete a team, right? You are just better on paper than they are, which we are. Got a really good roster. I'm really excited about these next 3 games. But when you've got an opportunity to just straight up out-athlete these 3 teams, 2 of them where you pick the venue, why would you go play in weather that really cramps your speed advantage? Why would you go play in weather, in the snow specifically, that slows the ball down? Forget just the players running in the cold. Lonzo, you played in the cold before. It freaking stings when you start breathing heavy and running.
Yeah, it's pretty painful, without a doubt.
Yeah. So why would you?
I guarantee you there'll be less flopping.
Oh, yeah, because the ground hurts.
It's like, no, I'm not doing that.
But when it snows and when it's that cold, the ball slows down too. The ball gets harder. It does not, if it's on snow, it doesn't travel at all, which means that all of your speed is negated to some degree. Texter says, how about that Green Bay home field advantage? Which, yeah, I was wrong. I thought Jimmy G would struggle in the snow. But let's not forget, what was the final score of that game? 13-10, right? That game was dramatically slowed down. Dramatically slowed down. In soccer, dramatically slowing down the game is significantly worse than it is in football, right? Significantly worse when you have the speed advantage. The Americans have the speed advantage. They're faster across the front 5. Why would you get rid of the advantage of your attacking 5 by making them kick the ball over snow, which slows the ball down 30%?
I know this is wrong of me, but if there's a full-on snowstorm going on and they're playing, I'm watching that.
You're more interested?
Yeah, because there's going to be some slipping.
Oh, it's going to be ugly. Now, I believe that the fields they're playing on have like heaters and snow crews built in.
Yeah, that works for football fields, doesn't it?
Yeah, right. The point is you're giving up your advantage on paper for what reason? Burhalter says it's so the team can travel less, right? You go from Thursday to Saturday in Canada. So going from Ohio to Canada is a much shorter trip than going from Orlando or Austin. But then what about the third game? Why not come back and play the third game in Austin or Orlando? Right? I don't know. I just don't love it. Quick break. Back to wrap up hour number 2 after this on the Rob Brown Show on ESPN Upstate. Josh, what's up, fella? Welcome back, big dog. What you mean moving into the territory?
Yeah, I didn't get that either. I mean, what's that mean, Josh?
That's 864-448-3772. Prescription products require an online physician consultation and are only available if the physician determines the prescription is appropriate. Subscription required. See website for full details and important safety information.
Hey guys, good news. The outrageously expensive Viagra is available in generic form, which means you can get the prescription medication to treat ED for a fraction of the cost.
Yeah. He threw in quite a bit of Spanish today for the entire program. You've missed it. He almost sounds like one of them bilinguals.
One of them bilinguals.
Now, thanks to HIMS, nobody has to, and that's really good news.
To start your free online visit, you need to go to this exclusive address, forhims.com/joy. That's forhims.com/joy for your free online visit. forhims.com/joy. Look, staying healthy.
Someone has shared a video of Brock Lesnar playing soccer with Randy Orton and Cesaro. It's not a lengthy video, but I will send a link to you. It is now on your Twitter. It's 12 seconds.
Dude's a freaking monster, man.
Someone who's handy with everything from nail files
Dude,
to
I
spreadsheet files.
don't know why that's exactly what I expected, but it was.
Indeed can help her hire great people fast. Indeed you do. Instant Match instantly connects you with quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your sponsor.
Looks like he's played soccer in Minnesota before.
Yep.
There you go.
Kick it that way.
You're the goalie? I quit.
All right, wrapping up hour number 2 of the Rob Brown Show here on ESPN Upstate. When we come back here in just a minute from right now, I said I was going to get to this earlier, but we kind of segued into the head coaching stuff. Mel Kiper's first mock draft is out. We'll take a rundown of that, see what picks you like, what picks you don't. Interesting complaint from some PGA Tour professionals that have played a couple of events this year, and I think one that's going to build respect for a couple of guys out of Alonzo. I'll tell you what that is coming up in a few minutes from right now. And, of course, we'll bring back the Hall of Fame discussion. All that more next hour, The Rob Brown Show, ESPN Upstate.
So close to picking up a win at number 9 at Duke yesterday. They end up losing by 2, 71-69. PJ Hall had quite the performance with 14 points and 10 rebounds, leading the team in scoring and rebounds.
So I had that band dream that I have on occasion. Yeah, always, since I don't do it anymore, I have that dream that we're getting ready to go play somewhere and trying to set everything up and having trouble finding all the equipment and get right ready to start playing, and I wake up. You're still in a band, so you don't have to worry about that dream. So you go, leave me alone, subconscious. I don't have time. It was a pretty big venue too, whatever it was.
ESPN Upstate. And now, a message from your smart speaker.
I know you're out there, touching things again, but who was there for you when you didn't want to touch anything? When all you had to do was ask, and you got all the information you wanted from a trusted source.
Still the best way to stay in touch with Upstate sports happenings.
Go ahead, touch your nasty phone. See if I care.
On air, on your smart speaker,
Not
or
sure.
any smart device.
And don't give me any of that it's not you, it's me nonsense.
This is ESPN Upstate. Morning.
Hey, check this out.
For an official Rob Brown lockdown.
Represents freedom Wayne.
Yeah. Real, unfiltered sports talk manufactured locally for the Carolinas. This is the Rob Brown Show.
Yeah.
Only on ESPN.
ESPN Upstate.
It's the third, the final, the best, the money hour of the Rob Brown Show goes now. This is ESPN Upstate. Hello, Upstate South Carolina, and how do you do? Great to be with you. I am Rob Brown. He is Lonzo. We're talking about potential head coaches coming up in the National Football League. Will you grab me clip number 4, please, Lonzo? This is a short bit of audio from the NFL Films cut of the AFC Championship game played between Kansas City and Buffalo this past weekend. And what you're about to hear is the voice of a guy who knows how to run an offense. Listen to this cut from tight end Travis Kelce.
Now the Chiefs have got to somehow get in field goal range.
Hey, 10. They might man you up. I'm saying go outside and come back in like you're running a route outside. That way when you come back in, I can get in the way.
They actually have a chance to get Bucker in field goal range here.
Hey. They play it like that. That seam is open.
8 seconds left, down 3.
It's going to be a 48-yard attempt.
So that was Travis Kelce. And what you heard was a setup of 2 separate plays. On the first one, Kelce walks over to Tyreek Hill on the sideline and says, hey, they're going to play you man. They're going to play you man. And if they play you man, I want you to fake it out route and cut back in, which was not the play, not the route Tyreek Hill was supposed to run on that play that then set up the Travis Kelce play to set them up for the field goal. On that play, Tyreek was actually supposed to fake it in and then jet down the sideline to try to go get something big. Kelce said, if they play you man, I want you to fake the out, cut back in. That way I can step in front of you and block. Remember what happened on that play? Tyreek Hill faked the out, came in, caught the ball from Mahomes. Travis Kelce was 3 feet in front of him, leading a freaking convoy. I mean, perfect call from Travis Kelce. Then they called a timeout. And during the timeout, Kelce, who was mic'd up, walked over to Patty Mahomes and said, hey, based on the defense they just ran, the seam route's going to be open. Not the route that Kelce was supposed to run. Mahomes sets up in the shotgun, sees that it's the same defensive backfield coverage, and yells, do it, Kels, do it. Kelce runs the seam route. He is wide, butt naked open down the seam, catches the ball, but more importantly than diagnosing the defense, calling the exact right route and catching the ball, Lonzo, was what he did next, which was he went down. He could have picked up another 7-8 yards, but the clock would have been very close to Dak Prescott territory had he done that. Kelce takes the first contact, gets down, comes up calling the timeout. I got to tell you, we've talked about the players we appreciate that are really smart about the game and how they attack the game and diagnose the game, Brady, Breeze, etc. Travis Kelce being mic'd up was beautiful because the dude called not 1, but 2 perfect plays in a 13-second drive that ultimately sent them to overtime, where who else caught the game-winning touchdown but Travis Kelce? That was impressive.
I am surprised that we haven't heard the narratives that, maybe Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy are overrated. How many times do these guys just decide not to run the plays that they're called to run?
I mean, I'm sure it happens.
I believe with Andy Reid, as much time they've shown him sitting on the bench talking to Patrick Mahomes, that Mahomes probably has that kind of leeway where if he sees something, he tells him to go ahead and do it. But how often you can't help but think, how often does this happen? How often do they make these adjustments while on the field and they work?
The fact that,
because if he got mic'd up and you heard all this and it didn't work and they lost,
we'd be having a very different discussion right now. Having a very different discussion. But what shows me that the dude knows what he's doing, Zoe, is that it didn't happen one time. It happened on the two most critical plays of the game, where he exactly went, hey, Tyreek, I want you to do this. It's going to work. And it did. Hey, Patrick, I'm going to run this route. It's going to be open. And it did directly against what Eric Bieniemy called, and it worked like a charm.
But at the same time, he trusted Mahomes. He still left it. Mahomes had to make the decision.
He still had to make the throw.
So no, he had to tell him to do it.
The impressive part isn't that Mahomes called it. It's that he went to Mahomes and said, hey, look, here's the deal. If they set up this way, this is what's going to work. And Mahomes saw it and trusted that Kelsey was right, and it won him the game.
The one other thing, if you're the best defense in the league, which Buffalo is supposed to be, when you hear the quarterback say, do it, Kelsey, don't you think the
up on that guy? Do it. Do it, Kels. I got to think, if I'm the outside linebacker, I'm going, all right, I'm just going to go run that guy over. I'm going to just go pop Travis. Granted, Kelsey's a big boy, but you get what I'm saying. I agree. How do you not see that route coming at that point? By the way, either one of those plays doesn't work out, Lonzo. Kansas City's got to throw a Hail Mary for a touchdown to win it, right? If either of those two plays goes differently, maybe even an incompletion on either one of those two plays, right? Because both of them were immediately stopped with the timeout. Either one of those two plays goes differently, Kansas City's Hail Marying for a touchdown, which probably has a dramatically different outcome. Good on Travis Kelce. What an eye, man. What an eye. All right, let's look a little bit at Mel Kiper's first mock draft of 2022. He came out. It's kind of interesting where he's got Carolina, Atlanta, New Orleans, and Tampa, the entire NFC South. First and foremost, though, how you feel about this? Jacksonville Jaguars, Aiden Hutchinson, defensive end out of Michigan, a Heisman Trophy finalist. Last year, the Jags were just starting the rebuild. This year, they're starting rebuild 2.0 after Urban Meyer didn't even last a single season, LOL. Kiper says that Aiden Hutchinson is the best pass rusher in the draft. They can play him on the other side of Josh Allen. No, not that one. The other one that plays for Jacksonville. And set him up. I think I got to go offensive line here, right? Like if I'm the Jags, I hate taking offensive linemen with the first pick in the draft. But if I'm genuinely invested in Trevor Lawrence, I got to get somebody to defend the blind side, right?
Whatever you pick, if you're Jacksonville, you're still not going to win next year. Whoever your coach is, you're still not going to win next year. So you're building for the future. I think either way is a good shot. And with the things that you said about Jacksonville, I have no problem with a Michigan guy going there.
Haterade is strong today. They got Kayvon Thibodeau out of Oregon going to Detroit at number 2. Number 3, Houston taking Evan Neal, the offensive tackle out of Alabama. The New York Jets, Kyle Hamilton, safety from Notre Dame. Iquan Mekwonu from NC State, an offensive tackle to the New York Giants. And that brings us to the Carolina Panthers sitting at number 6. Now, I have thrown out my conspiracy theory / educated guess that the Carolina Panthers are setting themselves up to draft a quarterback here or to trade back out of this spot, build up a little draft capital, and then take a quarterback elsewhere. Now, Mel Kiper has the first quarterback in his mock draft not coming off the board until number 11. He's got the Washington football team taking Malik Willis out of Liberty, a guy that I'm very intrigued by, right? He's more athletic than Lamar Jackson, though I don't think he has the same arm discipline or accuracy as Lamar Jackson, which makes him a bit of a question mark here. Not a lot of NFL talent around him to distribute the ball to at Liberty, so there's a question mark. Then they have the second quarter. Mel Kiper has the second quarterback coming off the board, all the way down at number 18, the New Orleans Saints, taking Kenny Pickett out of Pittsburgh. The Saints won 4 out of 5 to end the season, almost snuck into the playoffs. Probably would have made it had they had a healthy Jameis Winston or a better quarterback under center to pick up one more win somewhere. 42 touchdowns, 7 picks for Kenny Pickett out of Pittsburgh, and accuracy to make every throw. Remember, it was never Breeze's athleticism that made him good. It was the accuracy, and they loved that. But all that being said, Carolina's sitting number 6. If Mel Kiper's draft board was to come to fruition, Lonzo, that means that Carolina could drop back as many as 3 spots to number 10 if they wanted to have their pick of any quarterback. Taking a risk, taking a gamble, somebody trades up to 7 through 9, but they could trade back as far as number 10. And the reason I think they could is because this draft is very, very heavy defense, and there's going to be some very good defensive players. I think if they were to trade back, even if they drop past 11, right? Now, unless Ben McAdoo says to Matt Rule, Malik Willis is the guy. It's not a question. If there's a quarterback in this draft that you want, it's Malik Willis. Now, if they believe that, then they got to pick him at 6. They have to. Because there's going to be some teams interested in risking it for the biscuit to jump up and grab Malik at 7 through 11. There will be. And I actually think Mel's right. Washington's the first team on the board outside of Carolina taking a stretch here. That makes sense to take a quarterback. So if Malik is the guy, you got to take him at 6. I know you want to risk it, but you got to, or else you won't get him. If anybody else, whether it's Kenny Pickett, whether it is Matt Corral, or anybody else is the guy that McAdoo gives Matt Rule the old signed, sealed, delivered stamp of approval on, then Carolina's got a really good opportunity to trade back, right? Because I'm looking back through the rest of the names. Minnesota, I don't know if they take a quarterback, right? They may not love Kirk Cousins, but you could be in a worse spot, and they got plenty of other holes. Cleveland, not taking a quarterback. Baltimore, not taking a quarterback. Philly, not taking a quarterback. Philly's got 2 picks at 15 and 16 right now. The Chargers aren't taking a quarterback. 18 is where the Saints step up and might be a team that looks quarterback, which means that if it's anybody but Malik Willis, Carolina could theoretically draft or trade as far back as number 17. That adds some serious draft capital. If there's a team like, let's say, Philly sitting with an extra first-round pick, and they decide, you know what, let's package one of those 2 to jump up and grab a Derek Stingley Jr., right? Mel's got them going inside linebacker and defensive end. So let's say they want to jump up and grab Nakobe Dean out of Georgia, inside linebacker that's got really high grades. Carolina could make that push back to 15 or 16 in that spot and still have a quarterback. If they want to go offensive line, which is the popular thought here, if they want to go offensive line, they are going to end up with Charles Cross, who is the offensive tackle out of Mississippi State, for a couple of reasons. Number one, and I know that this sounds like a joke, but it's not, Matt Rule is obsessed with wingspan, right? Especially for a tackle. He thinks it's important to have as much distance between hand and shoulder as possible to force defensive ends out and around the pocket as opposed to into it. One of the reasons that he has shifted Brady Christensen around so much on the offensive line this year, instead of playing him at his true spot all year, is because Brady Christensen graded out as having short arms, or at least this is the theory, right? This is the thought. We'll ask Rashad Beard about it tomorrow when we do our Panther Nation podcast interview. But one of the thoughts is that he doesn't love the fact that Brady Christensen has shorter than average wingspan, so he likes to play him a little more inside as opposed to putting him out on the right side as opposed to putting him on the blind side guard spot, because he doesn't trust the arm span. Charles Cross has got it. All year long, a single sack issued while playing in Mike Leach's offense, which is pretty much all throwing. One sack allowed.
Can you trade back if you're the Panthers? How far can you trade back and still get that lineman, though? And what can you pick up for doing that? Because these quarterbacks, who's really going to move up to get them? The fact that Kuiper has them so low already, who's going to move up to get one of these guys?
You don't know, right? Pittsburgh.
And this year, more than any other year, it seems like desperation moving to get one of these guys.
Teams that could look at a quarterback. Pittsburgh could look at a quarterback. New Orleans could look at a quarterback. Washington will look at a quarterback. Potentially Minnesota could be looking at a quarterback. There are some possibilities here. Now, if you want to go offensive tackle, if you're the Carolina Panthers, you're going to want to stay put, right? You're going to want to stay put because once you go through the top 3 tackles, we told you who they were a minute ago. Evan Neal out of Alabama, Akeem Ekwonu from NC State, and Charles Cross from Michigan, or excuse me, from Mississippi State. Once you go through those offensive tackles, there's a pretty hefty drop-off in grades to the next batch of tackles. In fact, let's see, Kuiper here doesn't have another offensive tackle coming off the board until 25. Trevor Penning from Northern Iowa going to Cincinnati at 25. Not another big lineman coming off the board until the mid-20s. So if you want an offensive tackle, if that is where Carolina decides to go, and that's where I'd have them go.
Me too.
They stay put. They got to stay put because there's a big drop-off between there and the next tackle off the board, if you trust Mel Kiper. Now, if you want to go quarterback, you can drop back. I would say as far as probably 16 and still get one. But again, the reason I think they brought Ben McAdoo into the fold is because McAdoo's a guy who's got an eye for talent coming out in the draft. And if he has got his eye on a guy, remember, he had his eyes on Patrick Mahomes. He got overlooked. Didn't work. He then the next year said, I'd take Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson. Neither New York team took either one of them. They both suffered for it. If he's got his eye on a guy, like Malik's the guy, you can't move.
Unless they brought him in saying, here we're going to hire you to develop who we have. We put a lot of money in this guy, and we want you to come in and make him a winner.
Yeah, exactly right. That's what I'm saying.
I'm not talking about a draft pick.
Oh, you think they're bringing him in for Sammy D?
Yes.
Remember, Sam Darnold was who the New York Jets drafted when Ben McAdoo was saying, no, get you Lamar or get you Josh Allen. And they took Sam Darnold instead. And he had polite things to say about Sam Darnold, but he very publicly questioned the New York Jets' decision to draft Sam Darnold. I don't think he's a fan. I don't know that McAdoo comes in unless they are telling him, good possibility we move on from quarterback here, from this particular quarterback. But again, can you trade Sam Darnold? It's a hefty contract year.
I just want to point out McAdoo was a consultant? So if you're bringing in a guy who used to be a head coach, used to be, all this stuff, and now he's just a consultant, he's going to say yes to just about anything because he wants to get back to that position.
Maybe. But he also may know he only has one shot to impress or he might be done. And he's got to do a good job here in Carolina.
If you come in and you make Sam Darnold look really good, you have impressed.
Sure, I agree. Would you want to take on that challenge based on what you saw this year and no addition to the offensive line? I wouldn't. I'd hang out in Dallas one more year.
But we don't know that there won't be additions to the offensive line.
That's true.
If they come in and they start drafting linemen.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. Let's take a break. Come back. Rolling on through the third hour of the Rob Brown Show. It's ESPN Upstate.
So close to picking up a win at number 9 at Duke yesterday. They end up losing by 2, 71-69. PJ Hall had quite the performance with 14 points and 10 rebounds, leading the team in scoring and rebounds. Hunter Tyson, 13 points. Clemson will not play again until Wednesday, February 2nd, when they are going to match up against Florida State. Busy night of college basketball this evening. South Carolina, they are going to match up against Vanderbilt. Furman basketball, they are going to take on VMI. We'll have that broadcast for you right here. Wofford is set to take on Chattanooga, while South Carolina Upstate set to match up against Winthrop. Download the Score app today. Lightning fast sports alerts so you never miss a thing. It's why the Score app is one of North America's most popular.
So it looks like, and I'll tell Rob when he gets back in here, and I was curious about this, it looks like he's getting hit by Russian bots on his YouTube page. Hopefully there aren't bad comments coming up. I'm not going to look and see, but possibly that's what it says that it does.
NFL playoff coverage lives on Odyssey, your audio home for football. Get local coverage from your favorite sports talk station, or listen in to expert national coverage from CBS Sports Radio. Go deeper with daily podcasts for every playoff team from the Locked On Podcast Network. Plus, get up-to-the-minute betting tips for every single playoff game with You Better You Bet Countdown to Kickoff, streaming live each playoff game day. Be ready for the playoffs. Download the Odyssey app today.
So I was curious about that thing that's being messaged on your YouTube, and I looked it up, and it's a Russian bot that supposedly makes really bad comments. So I don't know if you've looked at your YouTube page to see if you've gotten some really bad comments.
No, but I will right now.
I was reluctant
Like
to
in
look.
Russian?
I was reluctant. I don't know if it's in Russian or not. I was reluctant to look it up, but I did anyway because I wanted to see.
What's it mean?
I don't know. No, it's
Oh.
it's a Russian bot.
Let's see.
So someone is throwing bots up there, or a bot is throwing bots up there.
From Russian to English. It doesn't, Google Translate doesn't have a
Right.
translation.
If you look up, if you start typing in that, what's on there, it shows up and it's a command. It's a bot
Oh,
command.
I get it. Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
It's not actual Russian. It's from Russia though,
Gotcha.
supposedly.
You take it on the run.
The
baby.
Ruskies are trying to spam your YouTube account. I'll do just about anything to stop you from singing that song. What a waste. How is that a rock band? It's not a rock band. Might as well be Air Supply.
The Rob Brown Show rolls on. It's ESPN Upstate. Text line's open for preferred home services. Text line, it's 71307, 71307. Your texts are more than welcome. You can also call at 844-GSP-ESPN if you want to get on the air. So the Olympics are starting up in what, like a week and some change now? February 3rd, I think, is opening ceremonies and day number 1. I find this interesting. Some of the networks that are covering the Olympics have elected to have their play-by-play guys stay in the States, broadcast the games remotely, right? So they're going to call play-by-play from their houses or apartments or studios or whatever. And the reason why is because they're effectively very worried about China surveilling American citizens who are in Beijing for the Olympics. Bob Costas, who of course has, we talked yesterday about Dick Vitale kind of being the voice of college basketball. Bob Costas is to some degree the voice of the Olympics in the United States, right?
Got to watch out for that pink eye though.
Got to watch out for the
Last time that got him
that
pretty
sucked,
bad.
didn't it?
Yeah, that was rough.
Knocked him out for a few days. Anyway, the Olympics this year expected to be a highly restrictive affair because of a couple of things. The first one obviously is coronavirus, but the second is China heavily limits the free press there, right? They very closely monitor the press, both China and foreign press that are covering stories there. And the Olympics are expected to be no different. So CNN did an interview with Bob Costas and asked his thoughts on how NBC Universal will handle those storylines as well as China's human rights abuses when they broadcast the games. And the first thing Bob Costas did, and good on him for doing it, is roast the IOC for their decision to host the games in China at all. He said, quote, "We should preface this by saying that no one could have anticipated COVID no matter what the venue is, but the IOC deserves all of the disdain and disgust that comes their way for going back to China yet again. They were in Beijing in 2008. They go to Sochi in 2014. They're shameless about this stuff. And so this takes place not only amid COVID, as did the Tokyo Games of a year ago, but as you mentioned, the restrictions on free press freedom in the sense that everyone there is being monitored in some way. It isn't just NBC. Any network that broadcasts big sports events is simultaneously in a position. It's quasi-journalistic at best. You're reporting a news event, and what surrounds it, in the case of the Olympics, isn't just what's confined to one game in a stadium. You're reporting an event, but you're also promoting the event, end quote. And he's got a point, right? And this is a spot that I find myself in ethically, both for the Winter Olympics in Beijing, but also for the next World Cup in Qatar, or Qatar, however it's pronounced. I've heard it both ways. It is very well documented that what is effectively slave labor, or wage slavery, as they call it, is taking place to build the World Cup stadiums that are going to be used in Qatar. An event that has already been moved from the summer to the winter because FIFA is corrupt, end of statement, and have elected to move the world's biggest sporting event into the winter so that this site that bribed to get it can have it. Beijing's just as bad. Now, the Olympics are a lot more interesting to me because not only, Qatar is effectively using what amounts to slave labor in order to build these stadiums. And ethically, I'm thinking to myself, as a sports fan, not a radio guy, as a fan, am I not kind of promoting it by watching that event, right? Like, am I not kind of making it worse by watching that event? Because it basically says, I don't like it, but I'm not going to do anything to stop it, right? The worst thing that would happen for the World Cup is if soccer fans just didn't watch it. I don't know. I mean, like, there's half of me that's like, dude, don't watch the World Cup. You shouldn't. The Olympics, I feel the same way.
We're in a different situation, though, you and I, and those in sports radio. You don't have to talk about it, but it is a sport, and it's an ongoing sport.
They're both major events.
And we need to cover it.
Right. They're both major events. Now, my question would be, genuinely, and I wonder this to the point that I may even ask the question at some point. I'm not going to do it, likely. But if we went to the powers that be, Lonzo, and we said, hey, look, I got a major ethical dilemma promoting the World Cup, promoting the Olympics by talking about it. Because Bob Costas is right. Covering it is promoting it, right? It just is. If we come on here the next day and we go, here's your extensive, exclusive Winter Olympics curling update. What we are saying to people is, this is interesting and you should watch it. And we know what's going on in China, and it's awful. It's awful. It's atrocious. Both the effective genocide against the Uyghurs and the complete lack of, basically in its entirety, freedom of both the citizens and foreign press coming to cover the Olympics. It's not all right, man. It's not all right. Bob Costas says that it is a shame the IOC is holding these Olympics in Beijing. And then the IOC sent out a memo that said that political statements made during the Olympics will get you kicked out and potentially have your medal removed. Now, I'm not a big fan of that either, as I'm sure most of you know. I think athletes are people who have a right to spread their message when and where they want, just like everybody else does. Especially amateur athletes, because this ain't their job. This is amateur athletics. These people work hard to be there and do that. So I don't know, man. I don't know. I am very intrigued. I am very intrigued by what the reaction to the American public is going to be. Because like Lonzo and I talked about in the first hour, on one hand, I abhor what is happening right now in China. I despise it. On the other hand, There are all these young American athletes who have dedicated their lives, the majority of them, for one chance. They get one crack at it. The majority of athletes get one shot at the Olympics. And I want to support them, and I want them to know that I will be rocking the red, white, and blue on their back and pulling for the Americans to win the medal count again. Of course I will be.
These are going to be another one of the cases where Olympics aren't watched as much, because if you want to watch them live, you're going to have a hard time doing it. I just look to see what time it is now in China. It's 3:30 a.m.
Oh, yeah, it's an overnight Olympics.
So I'm guessing it's tomorrow.
Yeah.
There. So you're not going to be able to watch it live. So anything you do watch is going to be something that's prepackaged, and you probably already know the winner of it, unless you get up and watch it in the middle of the night.
Which I will warn you in advance, some of it I will. Curling finals, 3 a.m. I'm up. I'm watching it. Let's go. Absolutely. But again, just as an overall event, I'm curious as to what the American public, how the American public will ingest these Olympics. America loves the Olympics, right? Every Olympics.
America loves winning, and that's what we
True story.
That's what we do at the Olympics.
True story. America loves winning, but we love the Olympics. I wonder what the consensus view of the general public is going to be. And I also wonder, as Costas pointed out, I wonder how these networks do this, right? So you're NBC and you're broadcasting the Olympics. And you've got some, not as many as we usually would have, but you've got some NBC Universal employees on the ground, right? Because you got to have cameramen. You got to have guys that set up the satellite trucks that beam the footage back to the States. You got to have it to make this work. If you're NBC Universal, can you genuinely report what is happening? Not the sports, but what's going on around the Olympics. Can you genuinely report on what's going around the Olympics, knowing that China has a tendency to make people disappear for that?
Yeah, not while it's happening. You can't. You absolutely can't.
Yeah.
Because you're going to fear for your life. And I just don't think anybody will.
I mean, if they have employees on the ground that are prone to just disappear because NBC says something mean about China, is it responsible for them to report on these things, right? And like if let's say theoretically an NBC employee on the ground finds out that China hacked into their phone, right? And stole some information about NBC's broadcast. Do they report that, knowing that that employee might disappear if it's found out?
Unless you're putting people over there to report who are people that you send into war-torn countries and things like that, and they know that's part of their job, that at any time that they could lose their life or could disappear. You know, when you have a reporter on the ground during a war or something like that, they know what could happen to them. Maybe those are the people you send over there.
Maybe. But again, I mean, even still, is it responsible to even send people in that case? Is it responsible for us to watch it, to participate? We will, because sport's above everything. I don't know. I'm just saying it's just a little musing from yours truly. A couple of texts that have come in. Rob, your pearl clutching over the Olympics is amusing. How is it amusing? How is it amusing? What's funny about this to you? Like, genuinely, what's amusing about this to you? I'm curious. A young lady who might be an Olympic athlete in tennis from China is just missing. She's just gone. What's funny about that to you? Texture says, not one person in the U.S. should watch a minute of these Olympics and should not support sponsors. I respect that opinion, to be honest with you.
But at the same time, you're saying, sorry, kid, you're going somewhere where you shouldn't be going. We can't support you. I'm sorry. I know you came from this small hometown. There's only like 300 people in this town, and you've risen above and you've dedicated your entire life to go do this. We can't support you.
I don't know, man. Texter says, for those athletes that kneel to protest, air quotes, things they don't like in America, should refuse to perform in China, where what they protest is drastically worse, or they are hypocrites. I don't agree with that either. right? You know what the great thing about protesting in America is? You don't disappear for doing it. You face the social consequences, as does every decision that everyone makes. You face the social consequences. But these people pour their lives into their sport. And if they go there and win, when they come back, they have a platform to spread whatever the message they want that they could not before, right? They have a message to spread, a platform to spread that message that they've never had before. Could they not go there, win, come back, and then go, let me tell you about the crap that's going on while they're being celebrated for a gold medal? That's not hypocritical, I don't think. But it's just me. It's an opinion. Texas says, yeah, I'm boycotting the Olympics. All the athletes should have stepped up and boycotted as well. It is hard to look somebody in the face and go, you know what? We know that you have poured 6, 7, 8, 9 years of your life into accomplishing this one moment, but we need you to give it up. Texas says, Rob, it's funny because you likely own a million things from China, and this is the hill you're going to die on, the Olympics? Come on, man, stop. Yeah, probably do. Probably do. I promise you, I've got opinions about China that do not fit on a sports talk radio show. You ever want to meet me for a beer and have them? Have at. Shoot me a text. Tell me when and where. I know I'm just a big, dumb sports guy. I'm not paying attention to the rest of the world. I just don't bring it up on this show because it's not the space for it until sports and politics overlap. It's not a circle, but they're not bubbles either. It's a Venn diagram. How many times have I said that? Quick break. Back after this. The Rob Brown Show rolls on. It's ESPN Upstate.
What's a Venn diagram?
Adolfo-Mensa as their new general manager. He immediately gets to work on finding a new head coach. Buccaneers tight end Rob Gronkowski told TMZ today while he needs time to contemplate whether he'll be back next season, if he had to make that call right now, he wouldn't return to play in 2022. Gronkowski, who played on a pair of one-year deals the last 2 seasons, said earlier this week he'd need about 3 to 5 weeks to decompress and assess how he feels before making a decision, adding that he would not rule out a return even if quarterback Tom Brady doesn't come back. Tonight's NBA doubleheader begins with the Knicks at the Heat. Then the streaking Suns, winners of 7 straight, visit the Jazz. Coverage starts with NBA Countdown at 7 Eastern on ESPN TV.
From the Ingles Market Studio, this is ESPN Upstate. 97.7 FM Greenville, 97.1 FM Spartanburg. ESPN Upstate.
An Odyssey station.
The Eagles Hotel California Tour. Live in concert with a full orchestra. Performing their iconic album, Hotel California, beginning to end, plus a greatest hit set. The Eagles, Bon Secours Willis Arena, April 25th. Get tickets Friday at livenation.com.
This feature sponsored by Walgreens. With low-cost Medicare prescription co-pays at Walgreens, you won't have a Medicare in the world. Plus easy prescription delivery options for even less than Medicare allow. Start filling your Medicare prescriptions with Walgreens and see how much you could save today.
So you finally got your credit score up to 700. You're feeling good, about to get a new credit card with rewards. You apply and, ooh, it's not approved. And that knocks your score right out of the 700 club. There's a better way. Next time, go to Credit Karma and check out your approval odds first so you can find a card you're more likely to get approved for. And with over 100 million members, there are plenty of reviews to help you choose. Get your free credit scores and find the right card for you at Credit Karma. Approval not guaranteed, subject to checks.
This whole wall needs to be shelving too. This is a focal point in our restaurant.
Leilani's new restaurant will have the largest wine cellar in the city. She needs a robust sommelier with notes of procurement manager.
3 sections for France, and this is the biggest.
Indeed can help her hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed, you do. Instant Match instantly connects you with quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your sponsored job description. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
We're planning a trip to Spain later this year.
But our Spanish is...
It's pretty bad. So we're using Babbel.
Babbel's conversation-based method teaches you real-life words and phrases. And with Babbel's interactive, bite-sized lessons, you'll remember what you learned.
There's no easier way to learn another language.
Ahora hablamos español.
Did you see what I sent you on Twitter?
Yeah.
Babbel, language for life. Now try Babbel for free. Just go to Babbel.com. That's Babbel.com.
Here at Frank's Red Hot, we put together a completely exhaustive list of essentials that will bring everyone together on game.
It definitely kind of points towards something because, I mean, your own brother isn't going to take someone away from you like that, unless he knows you're leaving and he's looking out for his guys.
I don't know.
Could be a coincidence.
So that's the deal by switching to Straight Talk Wireless. Now offering our $45 Silver Unlimited plan with 5 gigabytes of hotspot and nationwide 5G on America's largest, most dependable networks. The $45 Silver Unlimited plan from Straight Talk. Straight Talk Wireless. No contract, no compromise.
Unlimited equals 30 days. See terms and conditions at straighttalk.com. 5G capable device required. Actual availability, coverage, and speed may vary.
Welcome to AutoZone. What are you working on today? With nights getting longer, it might be time to refresh your headlights. You'll see better and drive safer. Why not try Sylvania Silver Star Ultra Lights? They have the furthest down road light, and right now you can get a $10 AutoZone gift card by mail or email if you buy 2. Visit one of our 6,000 stores or order from AutoZone.com for same-day store pickup or free next-day delivery. Restrictions apply.
Join the Rob Brown Lockdown on Twitter.
The Rob Brown Show rolling on. It's ESPN Upstate, 844-GSP, ESPN, 844-477-3776. The phone number. Text us on the Preferred Home Services text line at 71307, 71307. So, the NFC South next year, it hinges on Brady, right? Like what I suspect, you know, New Orleans probably not looking for a new head coach. We'll see what names pop up in that search. If you're Carolina, I don't know. I don't think Atlanta's rebuilding so much as it just can't get it right. I just can't figure it out. If Brady retires, Tampa's in a rebuild. I think it's time to pull the trigger on a rebuild if you're in New Orleans, right? I got a really good defense right now, but you got to turn over the coaching staff. You got to turn over your quarterback. You're in a bad salary cap spot. Might be time to reset that. Rebuild for them. Carolina's in a rebuild, no doubt about it. Atlanta might be the only team that's not in a rebuild, but do any of us trust them to make the playoffs? They had a good roster this year. Once again, couldn't get it done, right? The NFC South's going to be interesting next year as a division. Like, somebody's got to win it. If Brady comes back, obviously it's Tampa Bay going 3 in a row. Actually, no, 2 in a row because they didn't win the South last year. New Orleans did. They won in the playoffs. But they were clearly the best team in the NFC South last year, even though New Orleans did beat them twice in the regular season, but that's not sour grapes. It's just a thing. NFC South is interesting next year. And I think if you're Carolina right now, I think you've been gifted one more year to rebuild where you don't get left behind. I think you've been gifted one more year where you're not going to fall too much far behind in the division. But you better take advantage of it. I've told you guys multiple times, I think the problem in Charlotte is not necessarily the players on the field, although having a quarterback would be a big boost. I think the problem in Charlotte has predominantly been the decision-making coming out of the front office. It was the decision to give Sam Darnold another year before he ever touched the field for Carolina. How much different is it, Lonzo, if Sam Darnold plays out the 4th year, the Panthers don't extend his 5th year, which gives him another, $20 million next year against the cap? And Sam Darnold's a free agent right now. How much different shape are the Panthers in?
It's going to depend on the coaching job.
Yeah. It's all about the decision-making. It's all about the decision making, and this is a chunk of it for me. As decision making goes, it hasn't been great. Carolina has a bit of a gift in front of them with Sean Payton stepping away. If Sean Payton doesn't step away, the Saints are going to find a quarterback next year, right? I think that Aaron Rodgers was in the mix. I think Deshaun Watson was in the mix. Jameis Winston's a free agent. He was having a good year till his knee popped. New Orleans finds a quarterback and is healthy next year. Again, I told you yesterday, with everything the Saints went through, for them to go 9-8 and be a blown Rams lead away from the playoffs this year was impressive. Very impressive. Sincerely. If they find a quarterback and Sean Payton's there, I think Carolina's getting a little further left behind because the arms race between Tampa Bay and New Orleans continues. And Atlanta's probably 1 year away from hopefully making a move that would help them out in that decision. So I don't know, man. I don't know. I think there's a gift in front of Carolina that the NFC South is going to be bad next year. Even if Brady does come back, I still think the NFC South is going to be bad. The Saints are going to struggle. The Falcons always struggle. The Panthers aren't good. I mean, I'll see what happens with the roster if Brady retires, which, Lonzo, if I had to ask you right now, lean in which direction? Retires or one more?
Retires.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right.
And that's not just wishful thinking. It's just his demeanor and some things that he's said since they lost.
Yeah. When he left New England, he didn't sound like this. When they won the Super Bowl last year, when he could have ridden off into the sunset with the Lombardi, he didn't sound like this. He sounds different than he sounded before. And yes, we're not psychologists, nor did we stay in at Holiday Inn Express last night. But he does sound different than he's ever sounded before. And with him sounding so drastically different, I think it's absolutely fair to ask the question here, is he gone? And if he's gone, a lot of Tampa's roster is going to turn over too, right? Gronk's probably gone. You got to wonder if Godwin and Evans don't realize they could probably get paid good money elsewhere to be what they're being as well. I think Leonard Fournette's got one more year in his contract, and then he's up for negotiations. And after his year this year, there's going to be some teams willing to pay that guy too. Carolina's got a gift. Don't waste it. Make better decisions, man. Let's take a break. When we come back, Twitter trending topics to call it a day. I'm Rob. He's Lonzo. This is ESPN Upstate.
Thursday, sunshine high 47. Friday, chance for rain, late cloudy, high 48. Sunshine Saturday with a high 38, 45 on Sunday with sunny skies. I'm meteorologist Jennifer Luchitz from ESPN Upstate. Currently, it's 50.
ESPN Upstate. No matter where the ball bounces, we've got your hookup on your radio at 97.7 FM in Greenville and 97.1 FM in Spartanburg, on your computer at ESPNUpstate.com, on your phone or tablet on the Odyssey app, on your Amazon smart speaker,
ESPN Upstate,
and on your HD radio at WFBC HD3, at home, in the car, in the office. So many ways to get in the game with ESPN Upstate.
Oof.
Another year with that awful joint pain? Don't do it. Resolve right now to get yourself moving again for 2022.
I butt-curved the first one. Then I adjusted. I butt-curved the first one.
I thought you said I butt curved the first one, and I'm like, I don't know that golf shot.
This is really exciting stuff. Regenerative restorative treatments that actually encourage your body.
It's a booty thing.
Mortal Kombat 2 has been greenlit with Moon Knight writer Jeremy Slater writing the script.
I know. But, you know, I don't know if you should get excited about that since we haven't seen Moon Knight yet.
Yeah,
so
that's
we
true.
don't know if dude did a good job on that or
I
not.
love the trailer.
The trailer's awesome. It is.
I also haven't seen Mortal Kombat, so
It wasn't bad.
no.
worse than coming home from a cold day to find out that your heater isn't working. When this happens, you need an HVAC company you can trust. A company like Priority Heating and Air. Their HVAC specialist will give your system a thorough checkup. And if you need
I think that's the first movie I saw in theaters after COVID. I think. I know I saw it in theater.
Golfers, the best upstate deal on golf is back and on sale now. The 2022 Upstate Golf Card gets you a round of golf at 10 premier upstate courses, and it's still only $99. Grab your foursome and get your Upstate Golf Cards now to play courses including the Preserve at Verde.
So I have a month to figure out what the bracket's going to be. Someone suggested video games, and I don't think we ever did video games. And
Do video game franchises.
I don't know if there's 64 of
Oh,
them.
yeah, there is.
Is there?
I bet we could come up with a solid 30 right now.
But I think certain franchises, certain games in those franchises stand out above the franchise itself. So factoring it all
They
in
get
there.
to be included in the franchise. Because if you go just video games, you're gonna have to do your own bracket to figure out which Super Mario Brothers game represents.
Well, no, because what I would do is what I've done with movies and things in the past. I would go on money.
On money, like most profitable.
Yeah.
I mean, can you do that? Like Super Mario
Yeah, you can do
Brothers
that.
1.
You can do. Oh, I know you're thinking inflation and all
Yeah.
that kind of stuff, but still, I mean, I've been taking suggestions, but it has to fall within the nerd realm.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the bad part is with my memory being what it is lately, I don't remember what I've done before. And I have a list of them on my old computer. I just need to get them off my old computer to remember what, or just to go ask Chris.
Right.
Because Chris will remember every one of them. There's been 6 of them, I think. So I know sci-fi was one. I know sitcoms was one. I don't know. Could do wrestlers, but that would limit the, be a lot.
64 wrestlers. That'd be a big one.
Yeah, but could do that. All right, time for Twitter trending topics. If I remember how to do it, since I haven't participated in a week. That's fine, though. I can remember. All right, the first thing that's trending is Michael Rappaport.
Wow. Michael Rappaport has popped up a couple of times on Twitter in the last year, and ordinarily he just goes flame war with people on Twitter. Did he do it again?
All right, here's why he's trending. There's a video out there of him at a CVS filming a guy just walking in and shoplifting and walking out and no one doing anything about it. And he's throwing expletives about it and stuff, and it's trending everywhere about the fact that, yeah.
You ever worked retail before?
Yes.
Okay, so I worked retail when I was in college. Here's a fun true story that
I got to be night security.
Oh, no.
Yeah, which was a lot of fun.
Here's a fun story for you to laugh at. When I was in college one year, I wanted to go on a cruise. And my parents were like, we're not giving you extra money to go on a cruise. If you want to go, we'll help, but you're going to have to pay for the cruise. And so I decided to get a job. Well, one of the guys in my fraternity was a manager at an Abercrombie and Fitch. And so I was like, I needed a job for 2 months, right? I just wanted to basically bank a little extra change to go on the cruise and act like
So
a
when you
college
said retail, I'm thinking Kroger's or IGA like me, and it's
Abercrombie and Fitch.
Okay.
So I worked in Abercrombie. I got the job. I show up for the what do you call it? Onboarding, orientation. Show up for the orientation. And as you walk in, there's a guy at the front and he's holding a clipboard and he goes, "What's your name?" And you tell him your name and he goes that way. And then he'd go that way. And he point people in 2 different directions, right? And what I found out was that if you pointed you that way, that meant that you were a salesperson working on the floor. And if he pointed you that way, it meant you were not Abercrombie good looking enough and you were working in the back room stocking and folding and taking in shipments and carrying boxes. Guess which room Rob Brown got sent into? I was a back room guy. All right. They were like, no, you don't really have the Abercrombie look. So you're going to be the guy in the back. Anyway, when I went through this whole thing, they told us, if you see anyone shoplifting, note them, get a description of them, do not say anything, and call the corporate security number. Not the mall security, not anybody else. Call corporate security. And I guess it is because in the past, people have won lawsuits like they've been shoplifting and they've been stopped by a security guard and they've gotten injured and the company has been held liable for that. So that's why in a lot of retail stores, if you shoplift, they just let you go. Every store has got fitted cameras in it now so they can make sure they get a lot of good pictures of you. But if you walk in and just pick stuff up, they just let you go because at the end of the day, the $35 in merch you just stole is nothing compared to the payout if they hurt you and you win a lawsuit.
Well, I would have loved to have been in that situation, but working overnights at Kroger, if you heard 800 or no, it was 900, and this was before 900 numbers. If they yelled 900 over the loudspeaker, you had to run to the front as fast as you could. That means we are either being robbed or we're being shot. Yes. And quite a bit of that happened. We don't have time to talk about the riot I was involved in while that was going on. Yeah.
Tomorrow. By the way, real quick breaking news. This is genuine breaking sports news brought to you by our friends at BetQL. BetQL, smarter bets start with BetQL. UFC heavyweight champion Francis Ngannou will have to undergo knee surgery before he's able to train or compete again, according to his manager. Apparently, he went into the 5-round bout this past weekend with Cyril Gane with an injured knee, suffered a torn MCL and damaged ACL during sparring sessions in the build-up to the fight, fought on a torn MCL and damaged ACL, and will require surgery before he can fight again.
And so it went the full.
Went the full 5 too.
Yeah.
Decision. We haven't even gotten to that. Gosh, I wonder why. If we only had a specific segment set up tomorrow just to talk about fighting,
that would be nice.
That would be nice. 220, Alonzo's Fight Club. You have a great rest of your day. Mark Ryan and Diesel are up next with Offsides. Appreciate you listening. We'll be back to try harder tomorrow on the Rob Brown Show and ESPN Upstate. Later, brother. Adios, stream. See you tomorrow.